An unforgettable journey begins for 16 drivers tonight, where every race takes the significant role of adding up to a championship at season's end. Live from the virtual Nashville Superspeedway, we welcome you to the first race of the round of 16 in the Season 6 Sunoco Cup Series playoffs and our presentation of the Nashville 200 in the Music City for the first and only time tonight to kick off the postseason, where alongside Derek Watson in the booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Bradley Cooper is our producer tonight. He's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, Derek, we had our first big storyline over the first 13 races. That was who was going to get into the playoffs, how we were going to see that develop, and how many drivers would take away wins in the season. We've had all those questions answered, but now it's time to ruffle up a new set of questions about the postseason. Who's going to move onwards? And ultimately, Derek, who's going to take the championship at Homestead of Miami? And that first step is tonight at Nashville.
That's right, Kenneth. Now the real questions begin. Who will win a race and lock in a spot? Who will crack under pressure? And who will be the surprise underdog we end up rooting for in the Final Four? I'm excited for us to get moving and find out the answers to that and much, much more tonight.
There's a lot of things to go into tonight's race from Nashville Superspeedway. It's the 14th race of the 2023 season, and of course we are entering now playoff mode. We'll take a look at our schedule for this year. We have knocked down everything from 1 to 13. We go from 14 onwards. Nashville Superspeedway tonight, Atlanta Motor Speedway, and then Texas to round out the first round, and then Pocono, Richmond, Michigan, the races after to round out the 19 races, and then our final race between the championship four down south at Homestead of Miami Speedway. Derek, and when you look at this schedule, what do you notice the most in terms of its variety and the type of tracks that we're expected to see, including tonight's from Nashville?
Well, I think the schedule's actually segmented pretty well, Kenneth. You got Nashville, Atlanta, and Texas now. Atlanta is more of a super speedway, but still kind of a mile and a half. If you're good at mile and a half, you're going to pass it by the first round. That Pocono, Richmond, and Michigan segment, that's a weird one. You have the tricky triangle, you have a short track, and you have Michigan all here together. That'll make it hard to qualify for the Final Four.
It definitely will be a lot of different types of tracks, and these are going to be very big obstacles, and that is including this race here tonight, because I mean, this track is sort of an oddball. You've got a different length compared to a lot of others we've seen on the schedule already, and also this is one of those one and done tracks. Derek, we're going to see this track tonight and nowhere else. It is not going to return, and so that's going to make things very interesting. Let's look at the Sunoco Cup Series playoff grid and introduce you to the 16 that will be fighting for a title this year. That includes defending series champion Lawson Peel at the top of the board. 2017 points for him. He's going to be at the top and going to try to hold on for a title defense. But you look at all the guys down through 16th, Eric, and there are a lot of potent drivers in this 16 car grid for the playoffs. You can easily throw the championship chance to either one of these guys and they'll run with it. It's a very big field, a very competitive one. We're probably not going to have a dominator at all when you look at the drivers involved.
No, there's a lot of big names in this. You get Dakota Curtis, Justin Erb, Gary Sexton all at the bottom. Of course, you got Lawson Peel, Stippy, and Mario Miranda at the top. This is a who's who of the Sunoco Cup Series, and we're going to wait and see who comes out and maybe wins that first race. You need to, that win and in is important here because so many big names, some surprises are going to go home. I'd rather lock my way in tonight in any way means possible.
That's definitely true. And a win, like you said, it's going to be an advancement. That's going to be the ticket. You don't really want to hang around points racing. You want to go for that checkered flag, and you're going to try your best to get to that very spot. Drivers are in practice right now. One of those at the top of the board is a returning driver for the playoffs. That is Tulsa, Oklahoma's Mario Miranda, who joined us now in the broadcast booth. And Mario, I think first and foremost, we want to send that we are so happy that you and your family are okay. And all those storms were really brutal out there in Oklahoma. So glad that you're safe, glad that you're okay, and most importantly, very happy that you're back in action here from the Nashville Superspeedway. You're one of those drivers at the top of the board in practice, one of those that's in the top 3 in the point standings overall. So what are your emotions? What are your thoughts going into the first race of the playoffs this year? Well, Mario Miranda, do you have a copy with us here on Podium Esports?
Snippy, stop the board.
Oh,
Let's try
yes,
one
he's
more.
the top of the board. Hello, Mario. You got a
Oh,
copy with us?
oh, I'm live. Oh, shoot. Sorry
Welcome.
about that.
That's all good. It's all good. We're just talking about how, again, we're glad that you and your family are okay. I know the storms are brutal out there over the last weekend, so I know you weren't a part of the last race just not too long ago, but you're here tonight, first race of the playoffs. You're in the top three in the playoff standing. So what are your thoughts and what's your motive going into tonight's race from Nashville?
Really just bounced back from the last 2 weeks. It's been kind of rough. The Glen is not how I wanted it to end. And then I was, really pumped up about Daytona. I usually have a good record with the final race at Daytona, and I missed it due to the storms that came through Oklahoma. So really, this is a bounce back race for confidence entering the playoffs. And I've done decently good here before, but all I need is a couple good stage finishes and just a solid finish at the end, and just to with those finishes in the stage and at the end, just to alleviate the pressure heading into Atlanta next weekend.
And give us a tour of the method to get to those stage points and a clean finish here from Nashville Superspeedway. What are the kinks about this track that you've gotten to know as you've raced here, and what are the keys for you behind the wheel to make a good race out here?
Well, I've been away from the sim for about a week and a half now, and then with the power out all week, I haven't turned any laps until this practice session today. But it seems to be like the mile and a half races we've had in the past. Especially, it gives me vibes of Charlotte, that clean air being dominant, and second or third, maybe being faster. But when you get up to the leader, you're kind of just stuck behind them. You can't seem to get a run or pass them. And even if you do get side by side, it's super hard to pass. So I think clean air would be super dominant. So the leader would probably have the best advantage, and hopefully I can get the lead and lead a couple laps, stay out front. Because if I don't, it's going to be a fist fight in the back between second to like 10th place. I feel the packs will be super close, and the leader would just expand his lead if that happens.
66 laps led here last year in that 300 lap race from Nashville Superspeedway. You go into this one tonight. I think last question before we let you go, Mario, on this comeback race. Is tonight the start of redemption to go for this season 6 title 2023?
I think so. Third time it's the charm. I guess that's the saying. I finished second 2 years in a row in the series, and I really want to close it out this year. I feel like I have the strength to do it. My regular season hasn't been the best. I've usually am leading the points by the playoffs time, but this time I'm not. I'm in a worse position the last 2 years, so I'm not as spoiled as I'm used to be, and maybe being not as spoiled can help me through the playoffs. And being only 2 races per round, that could also help me as well. So I never know, but I'm really hoping to make the Final Four and make a change this season compared to the last 2 seasons.
Well, we hope things get off to a good start here tonight from Nashville Superspeedway. Mario, we certainly appreciate the time again. I want to send out that we are glad that you and your family are okay and everything's all right after the storms that hit you just last week. And best of luck when we drop the green flag this evening.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So that is Mario Miranda, and he just said it. Second place in the championship multiple times in this series. Tonight is going to be the beginning of a long road to that redemption to get his first ever title in 2023. We'll talk to the next driver in line, and that's his teammate on Zero G, and a driver that had a huge story at Daytona just 1 week ago. In that last regular season race, we bring in the driver of the 13, Gary Sexton. Gary, of course, it's always good to talk to you. I know we talked to you, I think, Monday night when we were running the Monday night racing event from Daytona with the same cars, but it is a playoff race here from Nashville Superspeedway. What are your thoughts, and how are you going to try to attack the postseason this year?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm gonna, you know, in most leagues, when I hit the postseason and I'm in contention, I tend to overthink what I'm doing a lot. I think, with this series in particular, I've had like a different approach where I just try to enjoy myself and have fun, and I think I'm gonna try and do the same thing. Um, for the playoffs here, I really, as we get closer to the end of these races, if I'm contention, I'm definitely going to ramp up the aggression quite a bit. But to start off here at Nashville, this is like one of my favorite tracks. Very deceiving track. It looks like a mile and a half in every way, but you really have to be patient on the throttle, be patient on entry, really set up passes, and if we can get some long green flag runs, I really do think that I'll be in a really good spot towards the end of this thing. I absolutely love this track. So hopefully we can check a win off to start and not have to worry about the next race.
You're one of a couple of rookies in these 2023 Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. Does that add on to the pressure, or are you racing just like the rookie stripes don't exist on the back of your Mustang?
Yes. To both questions. I think it adds a little I mean, I know I'm not an iRacing rookie at all. But being around, this is the first time I've raced really with any of these guys for an extended period of time. And um it's the you know used to running leagues like Monday Night Racing where the aggression is through the roof. So, um, I've rubbed some guys the wrong way. I feel like in this league with my level of aggression, but I also feel like it's helped me maintain, position in the top 10 most races. So, yeah, I don't real like I'm gonna race without thinking about the rookie stripes for sure. I mean, we're here in the playoffs. Like I don't have a win, so I got seeded back pretty far, but I know that I could win at any time. And there's been a couple times this year that I've come close and given it away. So I think that we're gonna be in a really good spot. Just need to put the whole thing together and not make any mistakes, and I think we'll be there for the finish.
We hope for a good one tonight, Gary. Of course, we appreciate the time as always, and best of luck. I know qualifying just started, so we'll let you get out there. Go get him.
Yep. Thank you guys.
So that's the 13, Gary Sexton for 0G, and going to be lining up in that 14th point standing position in these playoffs for this year. But Derek, let's take a look closer at the track that we'll be having as part of our stage for the first race of the playoffs this evening, Nashville Superspeedway. And in some cases, you can think of the history of this track as increments of 10. Opened in 2001, closed in 2011, and then reopened 10 years later in 2021. But this concrete surface out in Lebanon, Tennessee provides a very big challenge for every type of driver that visits it.
It does. And for one of the biggest reasons, that simple word you used, concrete. It's a different surface than we race on normally. It's slicker. It's just a different surface. And that dog leg on the front straight you see there right by the start finish line, Kenneth, that is difficult to deal with. This is a much different track than a mile and a half. It's very, very difficult.
This track 1.333 miles, 2.145 kilometers, and just like I said earlier on in the show, this is the first and last time we'll see this track this season. So best of the case for the drivers is to make the most out of tonight's event as much as they can, given the different circumstances we've got on track surface. Here's the race analysis for tonight's Nashville 200. We go 150 laps here from Tennessee, just under 200 miles, hence the name of the Nashville 200. 321.75 is our kilometer distance for tonight. Stages are broken up as such, 40 laps each for stages 1 and 2, and then we'll go that 70 lap run to lap 150 to end this race. 70 laps, Derek, is going to be a big one that we'll talk about in terms of strategy. Drivers not really going to be worried about those first two stages, but the last stage is going to open things up if we get a long green flag run, and this track can be very conducive to that.
It can be conducive to that. It can also be conducive to a lot of calamity. Wrecks happen big here. There's not a lot of track space, and if one happens and there's 2 or 3 cars involved, it can go from 2 and 3 to 10 in just an instant. It may not be a super speedway like we think of, but it behaves like one when the wrecks happen.
Well, this track is going to pose a lot of things for the drivers that hit it, and in fact, the drivers are hitting the track right now for qualifying. I'd say about 5 minutes and 48 seconds left in our 2-lap qualifying sprint. Here's one of the drivers on track. This is the 6th car, Dustin Reeves for Prestige Worldwide Racing. We'll try and head into turns 3 and 4 and see if we can grab a good run out of the corner. He's currently 3rd on the charts right now, but not many of the field, Derek, have completed a qualifying time. And here at Nashville, I mean, Mario Miranda talked about it just a little bit, is that it can be really hard to pass. A lot of drivers wrap the bottom of the racetrack. It's not necessarily fully multi-groove, which provides for a challenge not only in the actual race, but just in the fact of qualifying, trying to get good track position.
Yeah, that is important, getting good track position via qualifying. And I think the other thing to talk about is, when do you qualify? It's a 10-minute qualifying session. We're halfway through, and you can see it based upon the ticker on the left, Kenneth, but 9 drivers have gone out and done it. So the question is, do you want to go out first, put a lap down, drop the mic and say, there it is, I'm at the top of the board, go beat that? Or do you want to know what you need to beat and maybe head out at the 8-minute mark? Me, I'm a go drop the mic kind of guy. I just want to go get it done with. There's nothing worse than anticipation. But you see our drivers here tonight, they want to wait it out and see what they need to do so they know how hard they need to push.
And also, there's that conversation of the track and the atmosphere changing, right? If you go a little bit later in qualifying, chances are, as the sun sets, you might get a little bit cooler track temperatures, and you might just have a better track condition overall, which could help you in terms of speed. Here's the 51, Zach Wilson, sideways at a turn 4. The RTR Motorsports number 51 looks like he's going to hop on the brakes and go back to pit road. He's going to try this qualifying attempt again. And that's the good thing, Derek, for Wilson in that scenario, because he got loose on his out lap. He didn't officially cross the line for lap 1 of the 2 laps that you are given. So you really have to be mindful of that, limiting the mistakes that you have on those 2 laps. And if you find yourself either in a slow exit or in a mistake coming out of some of those corners on the out lap, you can reset and try it again.
You can, and I think he just overdrove the corner a little bit, trying to get speed in. Let's watch him here. This is 3 and 4. See his hands in the camera here, pretty steady, a little bit of movement. Looks much more comfortable this time, Kenneth.
And Wilson
Reaching
will
down
come
there,
out of turn
shifting
4.
gears.
Yep, we'll be shifting up to 5th gear into turn 1. This will be lap 1 on his qualifying effort. We'll see what he can do behind the wheel of his Toyota Camry. Wilson, the winner at the Darlington Raceway earlier in the campaign. That was his one and only win on May 14th, race number 9, where it was a stellar run between himself and Jesse Whittington to the line. He passed Whittington as he got loose out of the final corner. Wilson was able to steal that one back, and Wilson comes into tonight's race 4th on the playoff standings. And we're going to be talking about that too, Derek. The race for the points. We know that wins automatically enter you in the next round, as Wilson comes in on 8th place with his, or 6th place rather, with his qualifying effort. But we'll be talking about the guys that are further back in the standings, that are possibly at elimination, and versus those that are very much at the top and are more comfortable, how different those strategies are going to be for tonight's race in this first round.
Yeah, I mean, that is the topic of discussion. How aggressive do you need to be? Listen, no disrespect if you're maybe Gary Sexton, who we talked to in the bottom of the playoff field, you have to take a bigger swing at things than maybe a Lawson Peel or a Mario Miranda, who have those bonus points. That's just how the nature of the system works. You only 3 races is not a lot of time to secure enough points. So that'll be fun to see. Here's Steven Stympian here on track. Look how big that wheel is.
Yeah, that's a nice setup. I mean, we've been watching his camera all year long. The Fanatec Direct Drive wheel, beautiful wheel that he's actually got on the hub. And the 81 of Stympian with his qualifying time. Make that a 29.821. Not good enough for the pole, but that is going to be fast enough for a top 3 position. And with the way that Stympian led 131 laps from that 3rd place starting spot here last year in a 300 lap race, I'd say that history is repeating itself, but probably in a good way. Mario Miranda puts in his qualifying time. That's going to be the 5th spot put in, as here's the number 48, Alexander Muscarella, out on track. Just see his arc in turns 1 and 2. This is his 2nd lap. First one, 30.76. And we'll see if this one is a bigger improvement or whether he's going to stay where he's at. With his current time, that puts him 33rd, so it's going to be really far down the order. Muscarella going to cross the line this time by use up as much of the apron as possible, and he does improve by a good amount, 29.999. So that will put him 14th on the starting grid, right behind Joseph Mahar in the number 46. Decent effort by the 48 SKM Chevrolet. We do have one more driver that has not put in a time. That is the 19 of Brad Fulham, but we do have information, Derek. He's going to get an end-of-line penalty for missing the driver's meeting, so he's going to be at the back. I figure that since he's gotten the penalty, he knows he's going to be at the back regardless of where he qualifies, so he's already setting the bed early, so to speak.
Yeah, that's one interesting way to do it, just to put yourself back there and not have to deal with the whole movement on the pace line. I went out there to set a time just to maybe strike the fear and hearts of my competitors, but I respect the move regardless.
Well, Brad Fulham does not take a qualifying time. We know where he's going to stand, but let's take you trackside and bring you tonight's starting grid for the Nashville 200 from the Nashville Superspeedway and the first race of the 2023 Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. It is All-Star race winner Austin Reedy in the 96 out on pole with a 29.786. He'll be the first to see the green flag. Richmond winner and playoff driver alongside him in row number 1. That's the 5 of Ross Harlow. Rookie sensation Colin Forrester enters his first ever Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. He starts tonight's race from Nashville in P3 alongside him, the driver who dominated this race in laps led last year, Steven Stempian behind the wheel of the 81 for 0G. Defending champion Lawson Peel starts his title defense tonight, starting in P5. Ray Rogers with a great qualifying effort, the Florida native, out in P6 to close out row number 3. Oklahoma driver Mario Miranda in the 99 looks to get his first ever Sunoco Cup Series title. Starts here at the round of 16. He is 7th. Curtis Kelly, the Atlanta winner from this year, will be right alongside him in P8. Then come the final 2 drivers inside our top 10. League owner Dakota Curtis in the 10, and the 13 of Gary Sexton, Derek Watson.
We'll pick it back up here in row number 6. That's going to be Travis Stevens in that 2 car, lined up next to Garrett Brown in the 16. Moving back to row number 9, we'll find Brandon Banks and Joe Mahar. That's the 54 and the 46 respectively. Row number 8, as we move on back, is Alex Muscarella in that beautiful suit right there. That's a nice picture. With Zach Wilson, who we saw on board in qualifying. Row number 9 will be Dustin Reeves and Justin Erb in the 20. And then rounding out row number 10, Kenneth, is Austin Shoemaker and Chris Krogar in that 7.
Logan Sturgeon in the 26 car for SheriffState.com Racing is 21st. He'll have Boo Schoonover alongside him in 22nd. Chris Shoemaker in the 4 starts 23rd. Charles Felds with a 24th place qualifying effort. He closes out row number 12. Wyatt Brackett in the 30 with some new Cartoon Network S colors this evening on his Camaro. He is 25th. Ryan Kendall alongside the independent driver in 26th place. Warren Kyle Keith so close to the Big Bracket Challenge win at Daytona last week. He'll look for his first win of the season. He starts 27th. Kip Easley in the 8 car bearing the Kyle Busch colors. He's 28th. Aaron Adcock is 29th. He enters his first ever Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. He's alongside rookie driver Justin Miller in the number 22 machine. Judd Danielson is 31st. Dakota Wilson will be alongside him in 32nd. That's row number 16. Row number 17 will feature the duo of Richard Swavely in the 32, James Kunkel in the 3 car, and then rounding out our 36 car field from Lebanon, Tennessee, Sean Kalist in the 43, and the 19 car of Brad Fulham missed the driver's meeting, hence the last place starting position. He would have gotten an end-of-line penalty regardless of where he set a time in qualifying. It is a rather cool evening here from Nashville. 80 degrees on the track temp, 78 degrees overall. Winds blowing to the north at 2 miles an hour. And we've got a really beautiful sunset gracing this Nashville Superspeedway. Derek, if you're a driver, what are your keys to getting to victory lane at this specific track? And how do you handle this 150-lap race?
Patience, and patience. There's a lot of ideas by drivers here. You want to get to the front fast, but patience. This track is slick. It's hard to handle at first. Be patient. Let the moves come to you. If you try to make something happen here in the first couple of laps, it's going to be trouble for you and many others.
Last year, this race was 300 laps long. We cut this race directly in half, so we'll be going a little less in terms of time. It took a little under 3 hours to complete that race on June 19th, 2022, and a little over a year later, we return back to Nashville in our first race of the playoffs. The Nashville 200 begins now with the 96 of Austin Reedy, the 5 car of Ross Harlow, and the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs are underway. crossing the line, lap number 1. Austin Reedy holds on to the lead. He's got Colin Forster, though, hot on his heels. It was a slow start, Derek, for the 5 car of Ross Harlow outside of row number 1. And over the first lap and a half, he has dropped all the way to 7th.
And not a slow start at all, but really just almost 2 wide racing all the way through the back as far as I can see, Kenneth. No big examples of 3 wide yet here. So we're going to watch these cars come around here in the top 10. Got a couple drivers who are using the apron. That'll go away pretty quickly. As these cars get looser and slicker, you'll get a little less brave about using that apron down there as the night goes on, Kenneth.
Yeah, those tires will start to wear significantly, and the apron won't really give you that much of an advantage. It's sort of similar to the dogleg at Phoenix Raceway, albeit obviously way less space here compared to the track over in Avondale, Arizona. Battle for third underway. The 81 of Stepien looking underneath the 12 car of Lawson Peel. He's got that spot, so Stepien enters the podium for the first time this evening, but a hefty line of cars that's building up behind these guys. The 71 Curtis Kelly trying to dive underneath Mario Miranda. We're looking on board there with the 81, and I love the colors with Stepien tonight. He is rolling with the Elvis Presley colors, Miller Lite on his Ford Mustang. Beautiful scheme to debut here tonight from the Music City. He posted it on Twitter before we dropped the green and just expressed his excitement of coming back to this track and obviously bearing the paint scheme as well.
Yeah, that's always awesome to see when a driver gets involved or a team gets involved in the theme or the atmosphere or the location of a race. And of course, Nashville is the home of country music, so I'm sure we'll have a few jabs in there tonight, a few lines will slip in, but it's always cool to see a driver kind of get in that spirit and embrace what we're doing.
It's more like you're going to get the jabs in. When we talked about it before the race, I am not a country music extraordinaire, nor am I really...
Right?
I mean, yeah, I know a little bit, but I'm not entirely, like, dabbled into the country music world. So I wish I can make as many references as probably you can, and you'll have me beat by the end of the night. We're all single file through the top 10 roughly, and we had some side-by-side battles, most notably Ray Rogers in the middle of that scuffle with a couple of others around him, but he has since settled into P11, and he's got a battle right in front of him, actually. 51 car, actually that's right behind him. 51 car, Zach Wilson under fire from Travis Stevens. It's a little close to that outside wall and almost got into Brandon Banks, playoff driver in the 54. We'll be watching that too, Derek, all night long. That outside wall in turn 4 is dangerous. This car can easily understeer and get up into the wall before you can even notice it.
Yeah, the entry into these corners is quite difficult. It's you almost want to double diamond these entries here, Kenneth, so that you don't drift up the track. So it's very easy to do to find yourself into a wall or even to slide up way high and let someone get under you. That'll happen pretty easily as the night goes on. But obviously, at any track, you want to avoid those wall hits. That'll be a story we'll have to watch tonight.
And when you get that damage on your car on the right side, when you hit that wall, it's going to affect you aerodynamically. So it's going to be really tough if you get into there. Turn 2 is also a pretty vicious area if you overstep, hanging that throttle at the exit of the corner. And so that's something that we'll be watching over the course of this race. And as this track develops, gets a little cooler as the night progresses, we're going to see drivers get a little more eager because they think they have more grip. And then bam, into the outside wall they go. Here's a look off of Austin Reedy looking at Colin Forster, but caution out. Judd Danielson and more in trouble on the front straightaway.
Yeah, it happened towards the back of the field. I was actually watching back there with Aaron Adcock, and it happened behind him. So I'll have to wait and see on the replay what happened. I just heard the crashing happening in the back of the camera I was following.
And it was Judd Danielson, Kim easily involved. Look at this camera angle on the front straightaway. Some of those skimming through the grass, but it started off of that final corner. We talked about getting understeer and hitting the wall. Well, we also didn't talk about oversteer. The snap oversteer for the 85. You'll see it right here, Derek.
Oh, no.
That's just overcorrecting into the 8 car.
Yeah, I thought he spun I thought 8 spun by himself, but no, he got some assistance. That was just a bad exit out of that corner that helped the 8 car get around there.
And it looks like also James Kunkel got into that rather late. He went hard into the outside wall on that caution, was trying to get through it, didn't really hop on the brakes all too much, caught a piece of the grass, and then bam, into the safer barrier. He ran directly at that start-finish line. There's Kunkel's Chevy Camaro on pit road right now. You can see the extent of the damage on the front end of his car. A tough start for the 3 machine for Nitro Motorsports, man who finished inside the top 3 last week at Daytona International Speedway alongside his teammate, the 47 of Isaac Mock. But under yellow for the first time here tonight here at Nashville Superspeedway, Austin Reedy, your pole sitter, still in control of the race so far. So I know, Derek, it wasn't necessarily a long run at all, but was there anything that you took in mind as you watched the field roll through these laps and what you took note of throughout the top 10 and beyond?
I think what stood out the most, KB, was how fast everyone got single file. Everyone was, I don't want to say content, but in my experience of Nashville this week in different races, people have been willing to go too wide and race for positions and everything. The top 15 plus maybe was all single file when that caution came out. I'm very surprised by that moment. Now, the thing that sticks out to me right now, KB, is that I was wondering if anyone was going to come down pit road here and try to get some extra gas and tires to maybe affect strategy for stage cautions. And I'm not sure.
No, it looks like nobody has come in for the most part, apart from those who obviously got into that crash. Kunkel, Danielson, Easley, Swavely among those, Chuck Feltz, those guys that all came in for damage repair. And in this series, there are no fast repairs given to the drivers, so you're really going to have to take care of that race car. And if you do get some damage, you're going to have to spend that time on pit road fixing it. We do have update that James Kunkel has taken his car out of the fight of tonight's race, so the 3 car becomes our first DNF here from Lebanon, Tennessee. Austin Reedy, the leader. We've got the 1 to green signal from the iRacing official pace car, so we'll take a shot at it next time by in our first stage. 40 laps that we'll complete before we throw the yellow, or while race control throws the yellow. We're not exactly throwing it, but nonetheless, biggest thing also to take note of, Derek, the entire top 10, all playoff drivers. You talk about the cream rising to the top. Prime example right there over the first 12 laps.
Yeah, that is a prime example. These guys are playoff drivers for a reason, Kenneth, because they race hard all season. They perform well all season. So it's not surprising to see that, it is possible in these playoffs, but how stacked this field is. We'll see a non-playoff driver win one of these races. But yeah, as you said, it's no surprise that there's going to be 10 yellow names on that ticker board when it reappears after we go green.
We've got 2 strong playoff drivers leading this race on this first restart. Austin Reedy, of course, fastest time in qualifying. He has not picked up a win this year if we're talking about regular season events, but the All-Star race picked that one up at North Wilkesboro Speedway, but he pointed his way into the playoffs, a very consistent driver behind the wheel of the 96. Colin Forrester right on the outside, waiting for his discretion on the restart. Lap 13 kicked off here from Nashville Superspeedway. Green flag back in the air, and Austin Reedy with a monstrous jump to lead the field back to turn 1. Battle for second underway. Stepien looking underneath Forrester.
And if you are Austin Reedy, the best thing you can see, Kenneth, is that 2-wide battle happening behind you. That means neither driver's getting the line they want. They're probably not as fast as they want to be. And as a leader, you can start to pull away.
Now, smiling from ear to ear, Reedy must be seeing the drivers behind him in tandem, all side by side for the most part inside the top 5. Stepien not able to break Forrester, and the same goes vice versa on board with the 81-0G Mustang. Remember, he led 131 laps the last time we were here, a dominant driver at Nashville Superspeedway. He's one of those, Derek, that knows how to weave his way through traffic, and what we've learned about all year is that Stepien is a big fan of these old and abrasive surface tracks, and that includes Nashville at a concrete surface. Stepien, though, backs out on that fight for second. Doesn't want to waste too much of his car too early. He'll stay in third.
No, he doesn't. And, as you said, this is a rough track, by the way. That's important to note. It's kind of harder to see on the broadcast than some other tracks we do. But, man, when you drive across this track, you can feel every bump in this track. It's, it's interesting.
Side-by-side battle for a spot inside the top 10. Wilson in the 51, Brown in the 16, pair of playoff drivers, and they've got some more behind, including the 54 of Brandon Banks, and a nice pack pack of cars that's starting to form. Ray Rogers, Justin Erb, Austin Shoemaker, Wyatt Brackett, they're all starting to put their names in the ring. It looks like Brandon Banks is going to try to look on the inside of Garrett Brown, who's going to give him this space. They are also side by side a little further up through the grid. Make that a side by side at it going for the 7th spot. Looks like that settled out quickly. Ross Harlow able to hold off Dakota Curtis, and look at the gap from Harlow all the way to 6th place Curtis Kelly. It's starting to build up a little bit.
It is starting to build up, and people are starting to try to make some moves and make what happens. I mean, look how many yellow names. By the way, the yellow names on the left side of your screen, those are playoff drivers. Those are the people in the round of 16 who are fighting for the title, and every one of them wants to make another spot happen and see if they can be in the contention to win here in about 100 and some laps from now. I'm a commentator, not a mathematician. Sorry about that.
Well, no, neither am I. I mean, I've talked so many times about strategy and numbers, and I always happen to get them wrong. So, I mean, we are the speech majors. We're the journalism majors. We know more about reading and writing than we do about plugging numbers in our head and having equations on the docket. I'm always terrible with those. We got a huge pack of cars, Derek, building up from 10th on back. I talked about guys like Justin Erb, Ray Rogers, Austin Shoemaker starting to put their names in the ring, rather, in terms of the fight between Garrett Brown and those ahead of him. Well, now they're starting to fight each other. So some infighting between 4 or 5 cars. This is the top 15 represented here.
Well, I'll tell you what, as Johnny Cash would say, this looks like the Ring of Fire, Kenneth. It's nothing but action right here, and craziness happening as they're swapping spots here. And I look at this car on the inside. That's where I want to be when we're racing. It's on the inside, tucked just inside the 14. But that 14 will get a better run off of the corner here. And now we're going to see it with Ray Rogers, and I think that's the 20 on the outside. So Rogers will get the better run into the corner. And if he was still there on the outside, the 20 would get the better run off of the corner. It's a lot of give and take.
And as that outside car, you have the advantage of pinching the driver below you on the inside. But for the most part, that might not be the strategy 100% if you use up your tires. The guys on the bottom will easily have the run. And almost contact as Brackett goes up the track into the 14 and goes plummeting through the field. I was about to mention Brackett, the biggest mover this far, up to 16th at one point from 25th, plus 9. Well, now that gap is going to start to lessen just a little bit, and that progress is going to get halted as we are side by side, multiple rows deep. Justin Erb not quite away from this yet.
No, he's definitely not quite away from this yet. In fact, at this track being 1.33 miles, you're never honestly that quite far away from anything, Kenneth. Even the leader doesn't take much time before he'll find lap traffic here at this Nashville Superspeedway.
And Brackett, one of those drivers in the playoffs. He was the last one to point in at 2,000 points. He is at the mercy of the cut line at the playoffs in this first race. Needs to go right for him, but he's trapped in 19th off of that mistake out of turn 4. Now going to have to try and pick things up with the pack that's still right in front of him. That's good news as Progar hits the outside wall. He gets into Chris Shoemaker, who darts down the racetrack. He's going to be able to save it, but Derek, the drama continuing to build at around the top 15, and Brackett must be shaking in his boots as a playoff driver. He does not want to see those dangerous situations happen around him. Here's the replay.
Let's take a look and see what's going to happen here. They're going to come out of the corner. Almost 3 wide there. I think the 4 is going to come up.
7 just got on the wall.
Yep, 7 got in the wall and tried to come down. And no, that's where they met together. That was a great save, though, by Shoemaker holding on to that. There's a lot of drivers who would have thrown that in the grass or spun it around. But Shoemaker kept us calm, kept us cool, and stuck with it. Now, what I like right here, Kenneth, we're at lap 24. Lap 40 is our first stage caution. This is basically kind of a test period for these drivers. What can I do right now? You know, what can I do later? What do I need to know? So let's push hard right now and see what we can learn.
Yeah, that's a very great point. And we've talked about this all season long with the stages, right? Where it's a short enough race to the stage where you don't have to worry about fuel, you don't have to worry about tires. The whole essence of green flag pit stops are thrown out the window. Cautions, sure, that could play a factor, but if you're going green all the way, chances are you're not going to be worried about strategy until that third stage where it's 70 laps long and you cannot make it on a tank of fuel nor a set of tires without losing a lot of time. But in these stages, you have that opportunity to either push as hard as you can or run as conservatively as possible. Take notes about how the car's feeling during the race and then try to adjust later on. And although these guys have fixed setups, and although they're not necessarily able to tweak everything in the race car, they can change little things here and there. And Derek, in a fixed setup series, those little changes make a huge difference.
Yeah, they can. That brake bias is the biggest one in my mind that you can change. But talking about test session, the one person who's really not being tested is Austin Reedy. Has led every lap, started at first, is running first. All he knows right now in his test, Kenneth, is that clean air is dominant. That's what he knows. Obviously you want to lead the laps, but in case he falls back later, he won't have that knowledge the rest of these guys have about what to do in dirty air and traffic.
Yeah, that's true. That's something that might develop over this race, especially if strategy changes to where Reedy's going to be stuck in traffic, whether that's through the top 3, top 5, or top 10. But so far, things are looking smooth for driver 96. Holds on to his lead so far to the tune of half a second to Colin Forrester. And a nice way to say tune here at the Music City. Forrester's starting to fall back a little bit, though, Derek. I've noticed he was right alongside Austin Reedy at one point, catching up with him as contact behind them. That was Curtis Kelly deep diving onto Mario Miranda, catches Lawson Peel 2, slows him down. Playoff drama inside the top 10.
Yeah, playoff drama indeed. Drivers just going for every inch as race car drivers. That's what we do. Let's take a look at it here.
So a great run off of 2 by Kelly. And he looks down at the last second. Miranda tries to get there, and he wasn't shutting the door.
Ooh.
Kelly just washed up.
And not only did
Peel,
not only did he wash up, but he also kind of almost cut off the next driver behind him. That was a great save by like 3 drivers to make that happen.
yeah, wheelman efforts by all 3 of them. Kelly with a little mistake just oversent it in the corner. Looks like everyone's going to be okay, but Peel, the biggest loser out of that, he falls to 7th. Ross Harlow now going to approach driver 71. Going to ruffle his feathers just a little bit, get to the inside. As here's the 14 of Shoemaker underneath Wyatt Brackett. Then to look back at this battle that we're watching for that 5th spot. Harlow going to make easy work of Kelly into turns 3 and 4. And look how much the top 5 have separated after that incident. Miranda has pulled away. Harlow's leading a group of, let's say, 3 or 4. And the top 3 all distanced.
They are distanced. And what that makes me think now is these top 5 guys, Ken, for now, these are the guys who are comfortable in that car. As we're seeing Ross Harlow here, live on his camera. But these are the guys who must be comfortable in that car and in that setup. It is a fixed setup, but that doesn't mean that everyone feels exactly the same. We've both loaded into fixed setups that we loved. We've both loaded into fixed setups that we hate. And while we may love or hate it, it may be that I love it and you hate it. It's just about your style of driving, and not every fixed setup pleases everybody.
Oh, yeah, 100%. There's nothing like stepping into a track and then loading the setup for that track and either having that moment of realization where, okay, this is manageable, okay, this is really fun, or just the worst case scenario, all right, this is undrivable, I cannot do this anymore. And there's some tracks out there with the fixed setups, there's a lot of people that don't find them all too fun to drive. But, I mean, the thing with these fixed setup series is you have to deal with it, and it comes down to driver skill more so than the setups themselves and tweaking them setups to a driver's liking. And that's what we like about these fixed setups. It sort of evens the competition, and it forces drivers to learn new things about their driving style and to adjust accordingly in order to gain that much more of an advantage over the other. Ryan Kendall this pass for 25th on Dustin Reeves in a turn 3. Pretty clean pass on the 6th car.
That was a clean pass. Almost a good old Dale Jr. slide job right there, Kenna.
A bit of a slide job there, but Ryan Kendall is going to pull away. Kendall in this race started in the 26th starting spot, so really only up 1 from the drop of the green. Not that much progression for the 68, but nonetheless, I mean, any progress is progress, and he's learned a lot, no doubt about it, over this first stage as Hack builds behind them. Reeves sort of washed up out of turns 1 and 2, now inviting Dakota Wilson, Chuck Phelps, Bill Schoonover in the mix. Bit of a trio back here. And so the 78 Wilson makes that pass. He'll get in front of Reeves. Charles Feltz, the one next up on the chopping block rather. As the 75 goes to the bottom, he'll try to take that pass. And the 19 of Brad Fulham, great movement for him so far. That 19 car up to 29th after starting last due to that end-of-line penalty given to him for missing the drivers' meeting. And you've got some interesting notes, Derek, about some of our playoff drivers moving up to the field.
Yeah, a couple big movers throughout the race so far. As we're riding on board with Chuck Feltz right now, not one of our big movers, but having a great race regardless. Aaron Adcock right now, plus 12 positions since the start of the race. Obviously, he's feeling very good about his progress. He's currently sitting 18th on the board. Sorry to turn my head and check a ticker screen. And then Wyatt Brackett, who's currently up in 15th, is up plus 10. There you see Adcock's stats. Started 29th, currently 18th, he's up 11. And then Wyatt Brackett, whose name you called a couple times already, is up plus 10 spots just ahead of this. So a couple of big movers already tonight. These guys must love this track, Kenneth.
Yeah, that's true. Adcock making some decent progress. One of those playoff drivers in this year's run for the championship. And Adcock, the winner at Talladega Superspeedway in a crazy run to the finish. We were not expecting that 23 to shoot out of nowhere and get the win. The driver who pushed him to the win was the SheriffStrafe.com racing car that's right behind him, Logan Sturgeon in the 26. So two of these drivers affiliated with their teams. Adcock, a part of Big Fish Motorsports, and like we said, SheriffStrafe.com racing for the 26 of Logan Sturgeon. Both of them together. Adcock, you get a good look at him. His battle for second develops and a big pack is starting to form. Mario Miranda going to give support to his 0G teammate on the front straightaway. Your leader has pulled away by 2.5 seconds almost, and Stepien looks underneath the 31 car.
I'll tell you what, Stepien has some suspicious minds right now, to quote the king, as he is unsure about being in the middle of this pack and how hard they're racing. I will fit a second one and say I hope he's wearing his blue suede shoes while racing tonight. Do you know that either one of those was an Elvis reference? Did I slip both of those past you?
Yeah, I think it went right over my head.
Okay.
I'm going to be completely honest. But, I mean, Stepien has worked very hard to get around the 31 car. Caution is out for a stage break. Austin Reedy is going to run away with this one. He's your stage winner in our first one here from Nashville Superspeedway. Look at the gap that he built on everybody there. Stepien, as soon as he started to pressure on Forrester, and Reedy was just on rails from there. And Derek, there's nothing better than being the leader and watching everybody else behind you go for position against each other. Because as they're infighting, you just have the ability to not overstep on your driving and not push things too aggressively. Just run the rhythm that you've been having all race long and just see that the gap balloon.
Oh, yeah, that's a great feeling when you're just gapping the field. And I'll fit my last country song reference in for a little bit here and say that in his mind, I think he's thinking, I like it, I love it, I want some more of it.
Okay, you see, I got that one. That one. There we go. Right. There we go. I got that one, so I'm not completely out of the loop. At least that's good news. But stage one here over from Nashville Superspeedway, and 41 laps complete. We should expect these drivers, of course, to head down pit road. And the biggest thing that we noted earlier on that we're going to continue to harp on here in this first stage, all 10 of those to grab playoff points and stage points are all running for the playoffs this year. So no non-playoff drivers in that top 10 to speak of. So everyone's going to come in. No one's going to stay out, it appears. And it's going to be 4 fresh tires and some fuel. Derek, seems to be a general consensus call. But who knows? Maybe an overstep on the pit box or anything else could change the complexion as Reedy leads them in.
Maybe you're a playoff driver in the back of the field who wants to try to be in the front of the field. Maybe you try a 2-tire call. As we said, this is basically an official, unofficial, double secret preparation test session. Maybe you try a 2-tire run. If it fails, you know not to do that later. I don't know. See, a couple guys pulled out kind of quick there.
Quick stop. Stepien tries to beat the 96 to the line, and he will not. Austin Reedy is going to stay in the race lead, but the biggest thing for Stepien is that he's going to stay in that second place position. So he's going to be okay. He'll have a shot at your race leader when we go back to green. Just a quick reminder that if you are wanting more of some sim racing tonight, for Podium Esports. On Podium 2, we have coverage of the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Entry Event 7 at Watkins Glen. So not only is there stock car racing on Podium Esports, the main Twitch channel, Podium 2 has coverage of some road racing if you want to have two of those different types on the docket this evening. So Podium 2, PCA Sim Racing, live right now, and you can try and have two of these windows open if you want to have both of these races on your screen. So Reedy leading this race here after 42 laps from the Nashville Superspeedway. We'll take a moment and step aside, but you won't miss a thing. We continue coverage of the first race in the round of 16 for the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs.
What's up, Doug? What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Fuller. Yeah. Needed F-150 for Smith build.
Got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha.
Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
Welcome back to coverage of the Nashville 200, race number 14 of the 2023 Sunoco Cup Series season. And mind you, first race of the playoffs in the round of 16. Kenneth Bueno, Derek Watson with you for the action in the booth. Bradley Cooper, our producer tonight, using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Derek, we are ready for a restart. End of stage number 1. Austin Reedy took home the playoff points for that. If you're Steven Stepien, what do you do to get around the most dominant driver all night long?
You have to smash it on this start and hope you time it right and find that clean air. That's the only way you get around him right now, I think.
Well, the 81's going to have to play off the 96 out of turn 4. Pace car makes its way down, and they may be walking in Memphis, but we're back racing from Nashville. Green flag in the air. Stage number 2 to start, and a big start by Reedy there. He's going to bring rookie Forrester with him. Stepien is going to have to back out quite a bit. The two Fast Banana Chevrolets lead the field into turns 1 and 2. And a good run out of the second corner. Leaders hit the outside wall, and Forster did not go for the spot. Lawson Peel's going to try and fend off the 5 car. Ross Harlow into turns 3 and 4. They'll bring in Curtis Kelly and Gary Sexton. Loose goes Lawson Peel. Around he'll go into the grass. Caution flag will not wave. He saves the car. And we will stay green.
Let's watch this transition here. All is good. Yep, okay. Ooh, that was wild to watch that car go spinning right there in the middle of that field and have no one hit it. That's an amazing job by everyone involved. Great job to those guys, Kenneth.
But the worst part for Peel is that he's not going to get a caution to pick himself up with the field. He's going to be all by himself, and it's this mistake right here. And great job by not overcorrecting it into the outside wall. We saw that once tonight with Judd Danielson, and it's something that you can easily do in this next-gen car when you get loose. Peel held on to it, though, went all the way to the inside. He gets with nobody else, so it's a single car spin. He also picks up no damage, but Peel is trapped all the way back in 34th place by himself. He does have sight of the drivers in front of him at the tail end of this pack, but Derek, that's a huge shunt to what has been a very consistent race up until this point.
It has been, but say what, that's a talented driver in Lawson Peel, Kenneth. If there's someone I would not want driving angry, running me down, Lawson Peel is at the top of that list.
Oh, that's true. I mean, defending series champion, Peel has picked up multiple wins this season, his most recent coming at Daytona. He was the first driver in 2023 to go 2 in a row. That was Watkins Glen, the road course, and then Daytona last week. As aforementioned, he's the only driver in contention for 3 in a row, but this incident here, the single car spin, might just make that route to the front that much harder for that win. Gary Sexton and Justin Erb going at it for 11th. Sexton, one of those playoff drivers, Derek, that we talked about before the drop of the green flag tonight, and he mentioned that he's not really feeling the pressure of being a rookie in these 2023 playoffs. Obviously, the fact that he's not alone, Colin Forrester, Aaron Adcock, Jesse Whittington among those that are in their first ever Sunoco Cup Series season, or rather, not Whittington, he's a sophomore driver, but with the other rookie drivers, he's in that group, but he doesn't feel the pressure, and it seems like he's not feeling it at all as it stands 11th place and running quite well.
No, and the other thing that stood out to me from Gary's interview that you did before the race, he's talked about how, other drivers perceive him as aggressive. Guys, this is stock car racing. That is aggression. A little beating, a little banging, a little bumping. If you get offended by aggression, that surprises me. Some of our greatest in the sport, both virtually and in real life, have been about aggression. So if I could say anything to Gary Sexton here on lap 51 of this race is, don't worry about being aggressive. Oh, hold on. Speaking of aggressive.
Got caution flying out. We've got a spinner, Richard Swavely in the 32. He's got the 78 of Dakota Wilson with him. And those are problems on the front straightaway, bringing out another caution here from Nashville Superspeedway. And it all began, Derek, with that 78 of Wilson. I think just got loose out of 4 and unfortunately could not save it.
Wow. I'd like to see that one more time if we could. I see a little bit backwards to see what happened to it. But yeah, that's some big destruction. Here we go. Oh, he just lost it on his own.
Oh,
Then he
frankly,
fishtailed
Derek,
it down, I
I'm
think.
surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised that we've seen more cars get loose out of 4 rather than get tight off of 4. That's a huge hit to the outside wall. That's similar to the brunt that James Kunkel suffered earlier in this race. And both of them with severe front end damage. And it might just take both of them out of tonight's event.
So the idea of getting loose out of 4, Kenneth, what that typically comes from is you're a little too eager on the loud pedal. You're a little too eager to get on that gas and mash it down before the car is really settled out of the corner. And then that's what's going to happen to that weight balance and everything that's going to want to loop it around. That's something that happens more commonly at like a Dover or a Bristol, maybe a Richmond than here. But that's typically your biggest culprit of loose race cars out of a corner is you're too eager on the gas pedal.
Yeah, that's true, and it can catch you out at the wrong moment. You think you've got enough rotation, but then it becomes over rotation really quickly, and then comes that debate of whether you try to save it or let that car spin. Obviously, driver's instinct is going to be to save that car, but then either you find yourself either in an overcorrect situation where you go right up into the wall or into another driver, or you chase it down the track and you might also end up in another driver or into a wall. It figures out in its own way. There's Lawson Peel on pit road. Obviously, the spin affected him dearly. He is going to have a rather quick stop, 5.2 seconds, and it appears that it is going to be fuel only. So Peel with an interesting call, Derek, and I'd imagine that with that spin and with all that track position lost, this might be the only strategy he has to employ if he wants to get back up to the front.
What I was going to say too, Kenneth, he is the biggest winner of this caution. You talked about how he would, fallen out of the field and how he was behind. Now he gets to restart with the field and he gets to make those moves. But I like the idea of putting gas in. We're 13 laps in. Maybe you're setting yourself up so that if we make it to the stage, that you stay out, because that 70-lap run, you have to pit somewhere in that 70-lap run. Maybe he does it earlier. Maybe he's already thinking the big brain moves ahead that no one else is thinking of.
And he's done this before, and it has gotten him to some pretty good spots later on in the race. And I can remember that there's been a couple of races where Peel and some others have pitted alternatively from the field, and somehow the race just wraps around in their favor, and then they end up at the front with a chance to win. Peel is just trying to do this as early as possible. He's going to be 31st when we get that green flag, and you can look at the decrease in position with that spin. He started in 5th, was running around there for most of the race until that accident where no caution flew, and he's now beneath the top 30. Although with Peel's skill, we definitely do not doubt that he's going to be a big mover on the restart. He's a driver that is very fast at this track. He was the winner last time we were here. You can never count out driver 12 at all.
No, you definitely cannot count out driver 12, nor a bunch of other drivers in this field. This, as I said before, a stacked field that I have a lot of respect for these guys. And, you know, with every driver who clinches the top 16 spot, there's always a heartbreak of someone who doesn't make it. That's how great this league is with this Sunoco Cup Series.
So it looks like we will get the 1 to green signal this time by from the iRacing official pace car. We have currently what's going to be 55 laps completed. We are closing in on the final 25 before we end stage number 2 at 80. And we have gotten word that Richard Swavely and Dakota Wilson have both taken it behind the wall. So they will be the second and third DNFs here from Nashville. That's a pretty early attrition. James Kunkel, the first DNF earlier in this race. We will double them up, and once again, it's a fast banana duo, but this time Derek, Reedy is going to go for the outside. A rather interesting call. He's been wrapping the bottom all race long when we've gotten the green flag. Well, this time he's going to be at the top.
So I think this could have something to do with the tires, Kenneth. With the little bit older tires, it's probably a little bit safer to start on the outside and not spin these tires. So that's my thought about why. Although he had an amazing start last time he quickly got to the outside with that start, so I'm trying to say. But now this puts Forrester on the inside, and this will challenge the rookie about how to behave and what to do to maybe keep up with the leader here.
Well, Forrester came in inside the top 5 at the Daytona International Speedway just 1 week ago. Top 6 finish at Watkins Glen. Worldwide Technology also came home with a top 5. This season has been really consistent for the 31 car. We'll see if he can try to take the lead away from his teammate on this restart. Lap number 56, stage number 2 continues from Nashville, and Reedy with a monumental start keeps him ahead of the field. Forrester's going to hold off Mario Miranda and Steven Stepien into turn 1. Fast Banana versus Zero G off of turn 2. And Reedy quick to block the momentum, building on the bottom, but that may just be to get the draft for the 31 and at least keep the Fast Banana cars up front. But Miranda is having none of it. He gets a great run out of turn 4, and he will look for that second place spot back to turn 1.
Here comes Super Mario. We've seen this scenario before where Mario Miranda is the head of the class and finds his way around, but he needs to clear this 31 first, and he does.
Great pass by Miranda. One of the first passes all night long that we have seen taking place on that high side. We see most of the passes happen on that yellow line at the bottom, but Miranda using the lanes to his advantage. He's going to try to attack the next car in line, your race leader, but he's going to have to deal with Forrester response before he can get to that. And Miranda, I mean, he said it in his interview before we dropped the green tonight, Derek. A redemption race for him, returning to the series after taking a week off where his power was out. Got hit with some severe weather last week when we raced at Daytona to close off the regular season. Him and his family were okay off of that, but he could not race because he didn't have any power to get on the iRacing service and go green flag racing. So this is his first race back since that happened a week ago, and he's performing like he did not skip a beat at all. Staying in second, Forrester trying his best to keep that 99 close to him.
You know, Mario is really one of the good guys of iRacing on Twitter. When they got his power turned back on, you know what Mario did first? He tweeted to the power company and thanked them for all the hard work and support in restoring power to his community.
Yeah, that's great stuff for Mario. Although, I like to think that in this series, he's somewhat embraced the villainous role. I don't think this season has been all too reflective of that, but last season, for sure, he was one of those guys that's like, I don't care if I'm the bad guy. I don't care if you hate me or you love me. I'm going to run my race. I'm going to win races, and I'm going to be the best that I can be. Dakota Curtis with a bit of an issue. He's one of the playoff drivers in this year's postseason, and the GameStop car with some problems at the bottom end. This is against other playoff drivers, including the 16 of Garrett Brown. Aaron Adcock around him. Slight contact. And Curtis right into the grass, but a great job to save it.
That was a great job. Almost identical to what we saw earlier, except for the outside car not hitting the wall. So we can see that turn 4 is going to be a tight spot all night long. Oh,
Whoa! Forcer up the racetrack in turn 2. He saves it.
and that was just getting a little aggressive out of that corner. Now Forcer's going to lose probably 2 more spots here before he gathers it back together. Maybe only 1. Let's see.
Make that the first time in a long time we see a non-playoff driver in the top 10. That's Austin Shoemaker in the 14. But the 31 almost got the 99 into deep trouble, and that could have brought it out another caution as Wilson tries to get around the 71. Curtis Kelly, that's going to be a battle for 5th. Alex Muscarella and Austin Shoemaker going at it for that last spot in the top 10. Racing getting a little more aggressive as the night has fallen.
A little bit more aggressive. There's a little bit more grip in the track as the night has fallen. And these guys are determined, Kenneth, to use every bit of that grip here. Seeing a beautiful side-by-side here. But that's the 48 there on the inside. And they're fighting hard here.
And the SKM Chevrolet, that's the Lowe's car that you're looking at right now as we look on the rear end of the 14 of Austin Shoemaker. Playoff driver Wyatt Brackett's in this as well on the outside of Justin Erb for 12th. And Derek, boy, have we seen Brackett in almost every situation tonight. He's been involved in some mistakes that dropped him track position. He's been one of our biggest movers tonight as Erb gets loose out of 4, but he will save it on the inside of the racetrack. And he has been in many battles with non-playoff cars. It's been a fun night for driver 30 from our perspective, but for Brackett, it's probably a little frustrating.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want me to root for you, by the way, Kenneth, putting Scooby-Doo in your car, that's a good way to get me to root for you all night long.
Hey, he's been running a Cartoon Network car for what feels like all season long. I've been behind it. I've noticed it a couple of times. Tonight, though, some new colors, though. All purple, Scooby-Doo themed. He had more of a general Cartoon Network theme for most of the season. It was sort of a dark gray and dark green look to it. But I love the purple colors. It looks good underneath the lights, too.
Oh, it really does. Yeah, you want me to root for you. Scooby and Shaggy, that's right to my heart right there.
And
that's
he had
my
that moment
childhood.
yeah. And he had that moment of zoinks right there as Shoemaker sort of checked up in front of him. He's going to make this pass complete, though, for 11. So make that plus 14 since the drop of the green for Wyatt Brackett. Some really good stuff. And Brackett, in last year's race here at Nashville Superspeedway, came home 6th, but started 7th. So it was a really consistent night for him all around. Tonight has been rather different. He's been up and down through the running order. Next playoff driver to get a non-playoff driver in position is Aaron Adcock, 23 car on the outside. Him and Justin Erb on the back straightaway.
And they're up there fighting with Warren. Kyle Keith up there for 13th. So we're actually starting to see, as you said, a few non-playoff drivers affect this race as we're here in the middle, almost to the end of stage 2.
And then Justin Erb has been dropping off here. That mistake cost him dearly. He's one of those guys at the bottom sector of the 16-car playoff grid. He is the 4th to last car on that movement with 2,001 points. So 1 point over Gary Sexton in the 13. But as we've seen the running order change tonight, obviously the points are going to be reflective of that. Speaking of movement through the field, defending champ Lawson Peel up to 21st off of that restart. There's a look at the bottom right at his perspective. And I love, Derek, the clean room. We always talk about whether drivers make their beds when they have their cameras on. Peel will pass the vibe check as he runs right behind fellow playoff driver Dakota Curtis.
And look at that stoic, calm look, Kenneth. He has regathered himself after that incident earlier, right here behind Dakota Curtis. He has calmed himself, gathered himself. What do you want to say? He looks cool as a cucumber for someone who nearly lost his car earlier.
And that's been the key right there to Lawson Peel's success as a driver is his stoic and calm approach to anything that gets thrown his way. Whether he chokes a race at the last lap, he's fine with it. He feels the emotions, no doubt about it, but he takes a calm approach to it and doesn't really wear his emotions on his sleeve, but he stays with his head down, right to work, even when things don't go his way sometimes. And that's been a key to his success. A lot of the patience that he has carried behind the wheel. And this situation, no different. You get dropped to the field, you can be easily angry, bang your steering wheel, and then you can throw your waist away mentally. But Peel's deciding, hey, it's just one mistake. It's not the end of the race. It's not reflective of what's going to happen for the rest of the race. Let me turn this around like I can as a defending champion and go to work. That's exactly what he's done. It's working out in his favor as he continues to try and get inside the top 20 before this stage is over. Speaking of the stage, 10 laps to go until we get our yellow flag for stage N. And Battle for the Lead starting to build up, Derek. If you're Miranda, how do you try and crack this 96 car?
I think he already is cracking the 96 car, Kenneth. He's the first car all night that I can think of to be that close. He's the first car to keep pace on a consistent level. In his own weird Mario Miranda way, he already is cracking the 96 car. He's saying hi, he's letting him know what's possible, and he's making the 96 think about what he needs to do all night long to keep Mario Miranda back there.
And also for the first time, Miranda seems to be showing his speed like it was in practice. It felt like for the first stage, he was kind of hanging back there, not doing anything crazy. He's sort of testing the waters to see how things were, but in this second stage, he has gunned for position. He's been not afraid to use multiple lanes. He's been a little more aggressive as he gets more comfortable behind the wheel tonight, and it is resulting in some fast lap times. And here it is, a possible chance at the race lead and a stage win. He'll try to dial up the inside in turn 1, backs out before he has that chance to do so. Ross Harlow, Colin Forrester, both of them are going at it for 4th place, but Miranda is there, and he's not afraid to strike when he gets that opportunity.
I really thought Miranda was going to pull the crossover there, as you called it back in turn 1, Kenneth, and showing a lot of patience and knowing when to make the move, because I thought for certain that was going to be the move. He was going to come from outside to inside, but we'll see if he does it here. It's almost like he feels content just to follow for right now.
He wants to gauge what that 96 is doing, probably, and just going to end up doing whatever he's not doing right and dial that up. I mean, we've seen some great runs out of turn 2 for that 99 car. It's just he has not been able to fully execute the pass, and you'll see right here, changes his line in 3 and 4. He tries to dive down low, get a crossover, but he stays up high, and he almost gets into the outside wall. That was a rough corner for Miranda, but he's going to stay within a car lane.
So here's a possible thought that entered my head here as we're watching that lap go by. What Mario might be doing is saving gas, Kenneth. The guy in the draft burns a little less gas. A little less gas burnt is a little less gas in the pit road, and maybe he can make that pass on the pit road exit when this stage ends.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a really good point. And you talk about the sequential shifting on these next-gen cars. With that draft, he can get to 5th gear much sooner and just kind of coast where he's at on these straightaways. Even if he's not making that pass complete, he's staying behind and saving those little drops of fuel. And what that's going to do, Derek, is going to result in a shorter trip on his pit box, and that is going to be the difference between him staying in 2nd and him taking the lead away as we approach the 75 to go marker in tonight's Nashville 200. Potential battle for 3rd in the last couple of laps of stage number 2. Ross Harlow approaching the 81 of Stempien, and here's a battle already decided. Gary Sexton moving his way past Brandon Banks, some 2 drivers that have made some good progress tonight. Banks up a couple of spots since starting 13th, Sexton up 2 since starting 10th.
A nice night for Gary Sexton. For someone said that typically in playoffs he has a hard time and maybe blows it at times. Well, so far tonight he's holding his own and performing very well to set himself up for success in this playoff round of 16.
He's going to go to the inside of Zach Wilson this time by. Wilson just a little slower in turns 3 and 4. You saw that side-by-side battle at the border line of your screen at the bottom. It's Ross Harlow, Steven Stempien. They're both going side by side, but look at the battle for the lead. Austin Reedy under fire by Miranda with 2 laps to go in stage 2.
Well, now Miranda decided he wants to try to lead here. Just make the move. He's got it inside. Nice and patient. Don't drift up here. That's the biggest fear.
Reedy's going to stay there on the outside, side draft the 99 car, keep him there, and forbid any advantage he can gain going into turn 1. And if you're that outside car, you've got the momentum going your way out of the corner. Miranda's going to push him wide to make sure he stays there, and that's pivotal, Derek. Side drafting him the entire way around to make sure he does not go away.
That is the most pivotal part, and it's the most pivotal for both of them. It's also it is pivotal for Reedy to stay up there and not let Miranda track out all the way and get full speed off that corner.
Oh, Reedy just hit the outside wall in turn 4. Could this be the moment for Miranda? The answer is yes. Caution flag is out for stage number 2, and at the line, that was close. And you can basically have that gap within a couple sheets of paper as Miranda takes stage number 2 from Nashville. What a drive.
I'm out of 4 here. You saw them side by side down to the back straight. We talked about them kind of pushing each other and keeping each other honest. And then And out of 4, Reedy's going to say, hello, wall. And that's going to be how he loses first place here at the end of the stage.
Is that the first time, Derek, we've seen Reedy hit the wall?
It's the first time we've seen almost anyone hit the wall tonight, actually. But yeah, it definitely is.
So Reedy with that mistake moves him to second. Miranda takes stage number 2. We'll officially get the top 10 running order and the points list from our race control, Josh Lokenvitz. But Miranda with a stellar drive to move up through the front after sort of hanging around the top 10 in that first stage. He finally pulled the trigger. He is up here for stage number 2. So into our final 70 or so lap dash until the end of tonight's race from Nashville Superspeedway. And here comes the call. Everybody on pit road. And Derek, we're going to have to assume 4 fresh tires and fuel. You're probably not going to go around and try to go for 2 or maybe none. It's going to be 4, 100%.
Yeah, as Kenny Rogers says, Kenneth, you have no one to hold him, no one to fold him. It's not time yet to be any tricky. You go the obvious play here.
Was that a country music reference and a gambling reference all in one?
The song is what they call The Gambler.
All right, well, there you go. I mean, we may not be in Las Vegas, but the puns are still making their way out. I like to see it. Here comes the field on a pit road. There's a look at Reedy in that first box. The most important for a driver like him to gain that run off of the pit lane, but it is not going to matter. Miranda wins the race off pit road. Reedy, Harlow, Stempian, and Colin Forrest are the rest of your top 5. Underneath, 70 laps to go here from the virtual Nashville Superspeedway. We'll take a short break and step aside, but we've got more coverage of the round of 16 and the Nashville 200 here on Podium Esports.
What's up, Doug? What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Fuller,
Yeah,
need an F-150 for Smith build.
got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha.
Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide. Even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
What got into you? At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Yep. Welcome back to Nashville Superspeedway. Continuing coverage of the Nashville 200, first race of the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs, and we've seen some great racing so far tonight. 2 different stage winners. Austin Reedy captured stage number 1, and most recently, Mario Miranda took hold of stage number 2 in the last couple of laps and stole that one away from the 96. We have our field ready for the restart. Kenneth Leno, Derek Watson here in the broadcast booth to give you all the action. Bradley Cooper, our producer tonight, using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. And Derek, we talked about it on our race analysis. This is the longest we're going to go tonight, all the way to the end if we stay green. Strategy-wise, what's the challenge here?
This challenge right now, Kenneth, is saving those tires. You're going to want tires at some point in this run, but holding on and not burning them up will be the biggest challenge, I think.
Well, Miranda is going to have control of this race. Austin Reedy on the inside in row number 1. Ross Harlow and Steven Stepien, those doubled up in the second row behind your leaders. Pace car is down. We'll go heel toe do-si-do, and we'll get Boot Scootin' from Nashville once again. Green flag in the air. Miranda with a jump to keep him ahead of the field. Back to turn 1. Harlow on the inside of Stepien, out of 2. Second and third both go up to the outside wall. We are almost 3 wide for a second. And Derek, that's a big mistake for Reedy into the wall, and that could have cost him.
Oh, that will cost him, especially in this moment of this initial start when everyone's up to speed and excited. But good job holding on to second place here by Reedy. Now let's see what happens behind him here coming into this corner.
We've seen a lot of aggression build up so far over this race. Stage 1, a little more conservative, but stage 2 saw the fireworks come out, and now we're seeing 3 wide for position inside the top 5. We've got trouble behind. Driver to the inside wall, Logan Sturgeon, and he saves it, keeps it off of the inside wall.
That's an incredible save right there by Logan Sturgeon. And what was more incredible was the 3 and 4 wide racing that happened afterwards, but everyone was trying to check up and avoid what was going to happen. Let's see it here.
And this is the behind Lawson Peel. I'm not sure whether he got help.
No, he just lost it on his own.
Oh, car on the wall. 48, Muscarella up into Shoemaker. Now the caution weighs for good. Muscarella meets the inside, safer barrier. And with 64 to go, caution is out from Nashville. That was a hard hit for Muscarella at the exit of turn 2. And there's the damage, but we'll see how it all began. It was him and the 14 of Austin Shoemaker, and it appears Shoemaker, Derek, gave him a bit of help.
I saw Muscarella come up the track pretty hard, so I'm not sure where that started, but wow. Let's see it from this angle.
So this is also behind Lawson Peel. And right there is where Shoemaker...
I don't know.
I mean, it appears as though if it's bare contact, right, you're looking at minimal touching between those two. But that little bump, it looked like unsettled the 48. Right there, he gets sideways, and he's trying to save it from right there. And goes up the track, right into the 14.
Yeah, okay, I see it now. You're right. Yeah, there's a little bit of contact right there. Whew. And Muscarella did everything in his power. I'm sure if we had an onboard with his hands and his webcam, you'd see his hands just sawing back and forth, Kenneth. Trying to save that car.
Yeah, he was trying to fight that car, and unfortunately picks up a heap of damage on his Chevy Camaro SKM with a rough run with the crew behind the 48 machine. He's going to take it to pit road. So will the 14 of Shoemaker. I'm sure he picked up damage off of that incident, and hopefully Muscarella does not become our 4th DNF from Nashville tonight. We talked about Dakota Wilson, Richard Swavely, James Kunkel, all of those guys out of tonight's race. But it looks like Muscarella is going to take his time on pit road. He is not going to be out just yet. So hopefully we can see him return. And maybe, just maybe, that 48 might grab a good finishing position if we see more attrition. And Derek, we really haven't seen as much of it. This track has done a good job of separating the field in some cases. And while we've seen a lot of great racing fresh off the restart, as soon as you get a run in, I mean, a lot of the guys get away from each other. You don't have as much of a crash fest, or you don't have as many opportunities for drivers to crash with their mistakes, like, let's say, a Daytona, which is on the other end of the spectrum, complete opposite.
Well, I think every track, because of how it's laid out, or the banking, has a profile of one of two things, Kenneth. Either it sweeps up or it sweeps down. And I think for tonight, what we're seeing is that Nashville is a self-cleaning track. All the wrecks we've seen, for the most part, I mean, minus that one there, I think, have all swept down the track into the grass. The track has kind of cleaned itself, and we're good. So that's what helps with this, caution count, and helps with the casualty count, is that these are mostly 1 or 2 car incidents compared to a place like a Daytona where this cars sweep up and kind of stop in front of everybody.
And that's a great point. And I mean, with this track, the way it was built, 14 degrees of banking, I mean, it is a unique track, and when you look at incidents, you'll have things be also peculiar in its own way, different to a lot of the other tracks we see on the schedule, but nonetheless, a lot of great racing here in Lebanon, Tennessee. Nashville, one of those tracks that's owned by Speedway Motorsports. They acquired this track as of late, and they were owned by the company that had Dover Motor Speedway under their umbrella. It was Dover and Nashville, but then they were bought out by Speedway Motorsports, or otherwise known as SMI. So now Nashville under that sort of branch of tracks that go all the way across the United States, owned across the NASCAR circuit. And we're going to see another SMI track next week, Atlanta Motor Speedway. And I know it's a little too early, Derek, to be talking about Atlanta, but based off of the opening race of the season that we had there, to kick things off this year, but we're going to be in for a showdown when you add a playoff context into it.
We definitely will. But I'm going to come back to Nashville for a second. I want to put you on the spot, Kenneth Bueno.
Oh, okay.
Why is it called Nashville Superspeedway? Because it's not a superspeedway. Do you know?
I am clueless. I'm not sure.
Okay, so actually, that's okay. So the reason I looked this up today because I was like, why is it called a superspeedway? It turns out they wanted to have a naming difference between the Nashville Fairgrounds, which is another track both in real life and on the iRacing service. So they named this a superspeedway to say, hey, it's bigger, it's faster, and that's why it's called the Nashville Superspeedway.
Ah, okay.
You learned.
So those two tracks, very different. So they wanted to name them differently. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, we love the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, regardless of the difference in name. Nashville Superspeedway, a great track here. And also notice that the company used to be called Dover Motorsports, owned Dover and Nashville. They also own Memphis Motorsports Park. Love that track. I hope it returns in some capacity. Maybe an iRacing service, but, I mean, just a little history on this track and how it came to be. So 59 laps to go when we get the green flag. Mario Miranda holds on to the lead of this race. Austin Reedy this time on the outside. So the double 9 car goes for the inside row number 1. Pace car is down. Stage 3 going to continue. And that's a good start by the 0G Ford Mustangs on the bottom. And you reckon, Derek, those two on behalf of 0G probably communicated well enough on that restart to get Stepien second.
That's the beautiful part of having teammates in any race, whether it be this or a road race or an endurance race or whatever, is the communication that's involved. Knowing when someone's going to go on the green is a big help for any teammate.
Well, it's
So look how quickly this. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, although it's felt like a super speedway race in terms of the teammates being conjointed together and working well together. I mean, it's not a super speedway race at all. We've had Fast Banana and 0G going at each other's throats all night long. And here's the battle for the back in the top 10.
Yeah, and I was going to say quickly, look how quickly that single filed out, Kenneth. That's the quickest we've gotten a single file all night, I think.
Yeah, that's true. We really saw a lot of 3 wide, 2 wide action right off of the restart to kick off stage number 3 as a wash up out of turn 4. That's Brandon Banks in the 54 car. And here burst through the door, Lawson Peel on the inside of Zach Wilson. This recovery drive to note for sure the 12 car from 35th all the way back to 8th.
I want to say nice subtle flex by Zach there on that trophy in the side shot there. It's a good way to promote yourself there.
And the 51 gonna hang back. Nobody jumping the gun for now, although Reedy has a great run on second place Stepien. We look onwards to the Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolet of Lawson Peel, gonna stay where he's at. And now the question is, Derek, if you're Steven Stepien, you fought so hard to get to second throughout this race. You fell out of second when Ross Harlow got around you. Now you've got a shot at the leader, but this time it's your teammate. Are you staying a little more conservative just because that car is a part of the 0G camp, or is it still guns blazing? I'm going to go for the lead no matter who's up there.
Oh, man, that's a hard question. I would say probably for another 10, 15 laps, we're going to be teammates. But after that, it's going to be all elbows out and ready. Teammates or not, it's stock car racing. You go for the win.
An onboard look with Stepien as he enters turn 3. He's got a mirror full of that 96 Austin Reedy, who's being supported by his teammate, Colin Forrester. So again, turning back to that trope of 0G versus Fast Banana, they have been at it with each other all night long. And maybe, Derek, that could be a testament for what's to come for the rest of the playoffs. Teams are starting to emerge. We're seeing those guys with numbers using that as a leverage. And obviously, star drivers on either team. So you're looking at them showing out here at playoff time. And speaking of the playoffs, your top 10 all outlined in yellow. None of them non-playoff drivers again.
No, that's very true. Now, let's go back to that point you made about the teammates and the question you asked, which was very valid. What does Stympian do? Because if Stympian makes a move too early, he could affect him and his teammate as far as leading the rest of this race with those two, Reedy and Forrester right behind him. So that's a real challenge. Are you happy with first and second, or do you want to make that risk? I would go for it, but not everyone would. Some people are content with a 1-2 finish for their team.
Well, if you're a driver, are you ever content with second? I think that's the theoretical question we can ask too.
Very rarely am I content with second. Like if I'm pushing like a team owner, maybe. But other than that, no.
I'd say the best second place finish in terms of helping teammates was Talladega this year. Logan Sturgeon and Aaron Adcock, when they worked together to go 1-2 at the Superspeedway. That was probably a proud second place finish. But when it's running for the title, I don't think you have either a margin of error or any mercy for drivers around you, even if they're your teammates. Curtis Kelly underneath Ross Harlow, and here's Gary Sexton. Ooh. Pushed it 3 wide for a moment.
Oh. Man, Gary talked in the pre-show about being aggressive, and that is a good example of that right there, because I got nervous. I'm not even in the car, Kenneth. I was like, oh, this isn't going to go well.
That was very close between those three. Sexton, though, had the better judgment, backed out before it could get a little too risque in turn 1. And here he is on the bottom. He looked for a little square dance there between those other two. He decided to back out. He stays in 7th.
It's like the fastest game of chicken you can play right there, Kenneth. You want to see who budges first. Like, as kids, we all played chicken in different forms, see who would stop or who would, whatever. But that's got to be the most high-speed game of chicken I've seen in a long time.
And Sexton in the 13 holds on to his spot and make that 2 top 10s in the last 3 races. Had a top 5 effort at the Watkins Glen International Circuit a couple of weeks back. It did not finish all too well at Daytona, but Worldwide Technology Raceway, the race before Watkins Glen, that went his way for a top 7 finish after coming home in 22nd. And Gary Sexton is looking to continue that momentum, pushing his way. As we look back up, we saw a nice battle building up around the back half of the top 20 or so. And that's all starting to settle out. And speak of, here comes Kip Easley and Chuck Feltz. This is all the way in 18th.
By the way, I want to give a shout out real quick. We briefly touched on it, but can we go back to that 12 car for a second? Lawson Peel. It doesn't feel that long ago that he spun that car around, Kenneth. It was in the back of the field, and now he's P8.
Yeah, he has been on a mission since that spin. And again, we talked about it, that mindset that Peel carries to make him so successful. He's so calm. He is so composed. He gets in, and Gary Sexton, though, turns him sideways. Sexton cannot save it into the outside wall in turn 4. Caution is out with 47 to go.
Yellow's out, guys. Calm down.
Boy, Chris Progar almost T-boned the 13 there in turn 4, Derek.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, I'm excited to see this replay to see what happens. We've talked about Gary being aggressive at times. Was there someone more aggressive than the other here? Let's find out. This is afterwards. This is Gary trying to save it. This is going to be before the wreck right here.
Well, does this come down to a judgment of this my corner? And he's not there when you enter turn 3, but it's right there at the middle of the corner
that's
where
not
Peel
Gary's fault
shows
at all.
his hand, and Sexton is just running his line. And that's minimal contact, too. I mean, that was not him driving through the 13 by any means, Derek. That's just a little bit of contact, sort of a misjudgment of space, because Peel wanted to send it in that corner a little bit. That minimal contact unsettles the 13, and he had it saved until he turned right. Got up into the outside wall, and Chris Progar is going to come in the shot right there. Almost gets into him.
Yeah, that's if you want to assign blame for that, that's going to be on Lawson Peel for getting his nose in there and just kind of moving Gary. But yeah,
we'll see if we can try to get an onboard look with Chris Progar, because that was insane. He was able to get away from that. But speak of which, strategy starting to unfold. Derek, your leader is going to stay out. Everybody second on back is going to come in, as here's Chris Progar. We'll see if we can try to get a replay of Progar's look of that incident. But interesting call for pit road. Here's a look at the replay of Progar.
This will be him coming around here. So you're going to watch him come through the corner. It's going to be Gary Sexton ahead of him on the outside, I believe. So this is going to come. He's now down the back straight. The wreck is probably already about to start right here.
So there's Sexton,
there it is.
Parked up at the top of the track. Oh.
And if Gary would have painted that car one more layer this morning, I think we'd had a different result.
Morgar escapes that calamity, but there is another bit of danger for the leader in Reedy, who stays out on 23 lap old tires. Everyone else, Derek, has come in. Boy, Reedy's going to be a sitting duck when we get back to green.
Yeah, I'm going to throw another reference at you. You may not get, but I would say if I was to tell Austin Reedy anything, don't rock the jukebox. You should have been down pit road and got the tires. This is scary. It's scary for multiple reasons. One, he's more prone to spin the tires on older tires. Two, as you said, he's a sitting duck. These newer tires are going to pass him by. I'm not convinced. I could be wrong. I'm up here for a reason. He's down there for a reason. But I'm not convinced this is the right call.
And either he's going to hope for a quick yellow after or just something to go his way. And that goes back to what we mentioned, Derek, earlier about clean versus dirty air. Now that the 96 has old tires, he's going to be stuck in traffic if everyone gets around him. So he's going to have to deal with dirty air on his race car for the first time in a very long time. I mean, he did run behind Miranda quite a bit, but still being stuck in traffic, one car in front of you versus being stuck in traffic with many cars in front of you is a very different story.
I'm kind of curious to find out if this was an intentional call, Kenneth, or if maybe something happened and he just kind of lost focus about pit road being open. This seems like quite the crazy call. I mean, not to be put him down, but I don't have words for this one, so we'll find out. Hey, maybe he'll hold on to it and he'll prove me wrong.
Well, you can also think that if you're the leader, you're that first car that's coming in or staying out. You're going to be that guy who sets the tone for the strategy for everyone else. And, it's a sitting duck position as well because you don't have anybody in front of you to reference off of. Pace car's not coming in. They're staying out no matter what to lead the field under yellow. And then you have to make that decision. If you stay out and everyone comes in, then it's just a mistake. It's not necessarily a purposeful call. Now, obviously, we don't know whether Reedy's thinking that this is going to be an on-purpose call by design to stay out, or whether it was just him thinking that everyone else was going to stay out with him, but everybody instead just hoodwinked him and came down in. It's going to be a matter of debate between those two ideas. And we're going to get to green in lap 108 of 150 with 43 laps to go. Austin Reedy, the only car on old tires at the front of the field. Everybody second through the rest of the field. Came down pit road one way or another. Most of those 4 tire stops. Pace car is down. The Nashville 200 continues from the Nashville Superspeedway, and we await the call by Austin Reedy to hop on the gas pedal. He yearns for an early start. He's got his Fast Banana teammate behind him. Green flag in the air as Reedy will lead them back to turn 1.
That was a beautiful start, but man, Forrester wasted no time getting to the bottom here.
And Forrester looks to the bottom. He's got the pass, but not quite yet. Reedy's going to fight back on the high side, pushed by Ross Harlow. And the difference in tires will show one way or another. But Reedy's holding on. He's going to stay in second. Miranda looks to the bottom.
For the first time tonight, Kenneth, this rookie's going to lead this race. I've been really impressed with him all night long and his talent and his skill. This 31 car has been there all night long. And he's currently up in first. The graphic right there says third, but we know when he crosses back around the line, the scoring will update to say first.
Well, to make a music reference of my own, Bachman Turner Overdrive once said, taking care of business, and that's what Forrester's doing right now at the head of the field. Miranda's going to stay to the inside, and Reedy's doing a masterful job, Derek, to hold on. You'd expect the tire difference to be way bigger on lap time, but that 96 is still aggressive and still playing defense. It is not broken quite yet.
No, it hasn't broken yet. I suspect, though, in maybe 5 to 10 laps, you'll start to see the difference kick in. But, yeah, for right now, doing a great job.
They're stepping behind in fourth. Ross Harlow to close out the top 5. And it's a single file train of cars leading all the way to 9th place Lawson Peel. And they have separated from everybody around them. Here's Warren Kyle Keith, driver 24, leading this sort of third pack of cars, if you will, 12th place. Wyatt Brackett behind him in 13th. Brackett up 12 spots since the drop of the green. And him, Garrett Brown, Dakota Curtis have been some of those drivers, Derek. And you can also include Aaron Adcock in this as well. Those playoff guys that have just been hanging around the midfield. Is this the strategy that you want to have in this final stage, or is now the moment where you're going to push that button? Car on the wall, Ross Harlow. And Austin Reedy is in it.
Wow, that's so tough. That's so tough, Kenneth. That's why if you're Austin Reedy, that's why you want to stay out front, because the theory we have as race car drivers is that if you're at the front, you avoid the wreck. Let's see what happens here.
And the common denominator of this incident and many others tonight is overcorrection. 5 car on the inside of the 96 who's still trying to hold on despite having older tires.
Oh.
And Harlow goes careening into the 96. Nothing that Reedy can do. 2-car incident at the exit of turn 4.
I mean, we've seen snaps out of the corner tonight, Kenneth. Watch this from the onboard. This is sudden.
And again, it's just trying to get out of it. Playoff driver who's also involved picked up damage. The 54 of Brandon Banks, that clean Camaro that's been around all night long, now has some damage. Let's see if we can get Zach Wilson's perspective off of this. He just said in the iRacing chat, "Can I have some underwear, please?" Wilson has moved up to 4th, and this is his look of the incident that happened right in front of him, Derek.
This is going to be petrifying is what it's going to be. Watch this here. Didn't he touch the apron? I thought maybe he got on the apron and he just lost it. Oh, that close twice. I made my gambler reference too early because that's the gambler right there, because he just pulled that out. He had an ace up his pot, or up his sleeve.
He had pocket aces. That saved him right there. Wilson continues on in 4th, and that could be the difference between either being online for elimination or being right in that spot where you could advance into the next round. There's Austin Reedy and Ross Harlow on the pit lane, and Brandon Banks joins them too. He picked up the damage on the incident. It looks like Alex Muscarella is still on pit road, but he's going to come out about 1 minute and 8 seconds on his stop. He's still in this race, thankfully enough. He is in 30th, but for Reedy, we'll drop back to 28th. Now, Derek, I'd imagine that this is somewhat bittersweet for Reedy because, yes, he got a caution relatively early in that run where he didn't lose that much track position to get fresh tires. The only caveat is that he was in the caution, so now he's got to work his way up through the field, and that's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, that's every driver's dream is, man, can we get a caution, but can I please not be in it? That's the second half of that sentence we never say out loud, but unfortunately for Austin Reedy. Now, the good news, we're 37 to go. We have 3 green-white checkers, plenty of time for some crazy stuff to still happen. He's going to come down and get more damage fixed here, I'm assuming. But, you know, a top 10, top 15, still not out of the question for Austin Reedy as of this moment. He's going to come down here and get some more damage fixed.
Yeah, but you just don't want to put yourself so far back in the standings. No. Have yourself in a big hole to the point where you have to execute on those elimination races. And that's something that is preached so much throughout a playoff system like this, and similar to what the NASCAR Cup Series does in real life, where you can't really skip a beat. If you have bad races, you're going to get eliminated. Even if you have one bad race, it takes you out of contention or puts you in a place where you're going to have to do well or win at the next race, and that's a lot of work by itself. A lot of pressure, and who knows what the 96 can do from here on out. Still a lot of time, though. 36 laps to go. Well, just a reminder that coverage of the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs on Podium Esports is brought to you by SK Sim Racing. SK Sim Racing has been a proud sponsor of the Sunoco Cup Series and offers a wide variety of services to get you up to speed on your sim racing game. For sim racing products, Kalis Synthetics, Amsoil, and all the latest news around the sim racing world, you can go to sksimracing.com for more information. So restart here with 35 to go, Derek. What's the key for these guys?
I don't know. Just hold on for dear life at this point. It's going to get crazy and more chaotic as we get down to the final laps, Kenneth. Be up front, hoping that the wrecks happen behind you, I guess.
We'll see if we can dial up a long green flag run to end this race. Lap 116 is going to be the lap we'll focus on as they cross the stripe. Pace car is down, and the Nashville 200 will continue as Colin Forrester gets a good jump on the front straightaway. Miranda has to react. He will be in a fight with his own teammate, Steven Stepien, before they get to turn 1. Side by side for second. Make that door-to-door for fourth as well behind them.
And, you know, the challenge that Miranda and Stepien just faced, Kenneth, that we don't talk enough about, that's the first time that Forrester has led the restart tonight. Every driver has a different cadence, has a different timing, a different way they want to do it. So it's hard to jump a restart when you have someone leading it for the first time that's never done it before.
That's true, but the 31 has done a great job. I mean, as a rookie driver, he has shown out this season, and he's been in many spots so close to victory lane, and right now holding the fort on the field. We do have word that playoff driver Ross Harlow has disconnected from the session, adding on to the DNF list, and Derek putting him in almost either a must-win situation or facing elimination in the round of 16.
I mean, the wild card next week is Atlanta. It's basically a super speedway under the new rules, so who knows what could happen there. But yeah, I agree. For Ross Harlow, it's almost a must-win, but Atlanta could really make anything happen for you.
And Superspeedway can either make or break your hopes to make or continue your run in the playoffs. First side-by-side battle, make that for 7th. That's Chris Shoemaker in the 4 on Curtis Kelly in the number 71. What a move up through the field that has been for not only Shoemaker in 7th, but for Warren Kyle Keith behind him in 8th. That 4 car made his way up from 23rd on the grid tonight. 27th, Warren Kyle Keith started in this race, and he's now up inside the top 10. And the first bit, Derek, that we've seen non-playoff drivers sprinkle into the top 10 now that we've had some of these incidents and have taken some of the playoff drivers out.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, you know, 6th and 7th, that's a great run. Warren Kyle Keith is always someone who has a name is always involved in this league and always involved in the races. So I'm not totally surprised to see him up there. But since we've seen playoff drivers all night, it's kind of almost refreshing or different to see a non-playoff driver.
And let's talk about that too, Derek, as we look on board with Lawson Peel further up the road in 5th. When you look at that whole entire difference between those guys who are running for the championship and then the mindset of those that aren't running for the championship, it always poses a unique scenario every single season that we have a playoff system, because you're always going to find situations where non-playoff guys want to win races, playoff guys want to win races, so you have that clash of mindset, but then there's also that entire guideline of keeping things clean in that type of competition, because the last thing you want to do is ruin a playoff guy's chances of winning the championship, right? So it's so fun to watch that develop, and as this race progresses, to see how those non-playoff drivers evolve with the guys around them over the race.
Right, and those non-playoff drivers, hold on, yellow's out. That's Gary Sexton again. Mowing the grass, don't hit the pit road. Oh, it's gonna be a black, oh my, hold on.
Looks like he's
I think
okay.
he stayed off pit road, I think. I started to say it's going to be a black flag for unsafe pit entry, but I think he's okay. I do not see a black flag in the system for that.
Well, hopefully, even if he does get a black flag, race control can clear that, just because it's part of the incident and not necessarily him purposely violating pit road rules. And this is contact with Chris Progar. So, Derek, I guess things come around at some point. Progar barely missed the accident that Sexton was involved in out of turn 4. Well, now he's part of it.
I think Sexton washed up here, and I think Gary just thought maybe she thinks my tractor's sexy, and he went to go mow the infield here.
You've got a
that one over
tractor
your head
out there
too,
in the
right?
infield?
Yeah. These are country songs, Kenneth.
Okay. There it is. See, another one I missed. I was going to say something like literally and say, well, hey, we're in the virtual broadcast, but at least we're far away from these guys, not on track, and they can't dart for us. But Sexton does save it and does not get the pit road line. So you're right, doesn't get a black flag for unsafe pit entry or just speeding overall, although we should have seen that cleared if he did get that penalty. Thankfully, he doesn't. Here's a look from Progar. Just minimal contact. I mean, Sexton just washed up the track and hit the 7 car and just pancakes it on the left side of the Camaro into the outside safer barrier. And that, Derek, again, probably the 3rd or 4th incident that we've seen on the front straightaway at that start-finish line. Barney the Flagman has seen a lot tonight.
Yeah, Barney's had the best. If we just get one of those head-mounted cameras, like a GoPro on Barney, we'd have a good shot of like every wreck tonight, I think. Yeah.
Barney has seen it all. And there's been many races where we've had our cautions happen on the back straightaway or turn 3. Turn 2 has been a trouble spot, a lot of tracks, but Barney's been around for all of these. I guess he's never missed a piece of the action. Here's a look from him. So he's looking. He's got the green flag in hand, watching some nice racing, and
watch how fast he's ready here.
Right about here, sees him go around. He's like, well, that's trouble. I see a car right in front of me. Yellow flag. He's always on the job.
He loves his job. Look at how passionate he is about that yellow flag, Kenneth.
He's just like the waiters and waitresses out in Texas Roadhouse where they have that shirt that says, I heart my job. That's Barney right here on iRacing. Such a loyal flagman. We love Barney the Flagman. Such an iconic member of the iRacing world and the iRacing lore, if you can call iRacing having any type of lore. But caution is out again. We are inside what's going to be the next 25 laps of this race in just a little bit when we get the pace car rolling around. So this is going to be 26 to go. Lights are going to remain on, so we will be in a restart, Derek, with underneath 25 left. So that means it's crunch time, right? If you're a driver in this top 10, you're going to go out for the win, but it's all about trying to get Colin Forrester before he can pull out that far ahead. And a mistake that we saw earlier on in this race, Derek, is that guys second on back with fight for position, your leader would just run away. You have to prevent that this time if you're a guy like Miranda, Stempian, or anyone else.
Yeah, I was thinking this through as you were talking. I almost think the mistake that was made, Kenneth, in a weird way as a driver, if you're, 15th on back, if you're 20th on back, go put tires on the thing. Give yourself a chance to be different. There's this mantra in life: you have to be better than, less than, or different than if you want to be successful in life. Following the leader and their exact moves is not going to win this race for you. Be different than and go put tires on it. I'm so surprised no one went down pit road.
Yeah, it's surprising too. I mean, you'd expect at this juncture of the race, 2 tire calls will be made. Maybe some extra sets will be taken, but I reckon that the guys at the front probably are going to save a set, because if this race does hop into overtime, we've seen a couple races do that this season by far, we may have that situation where it's going to be old tires versus new tires, and that set of tires might get you to the race win. And again, we talk about playoff context, it means an automatic lock into the next round. And if you can exhale by the time you get to next week's race at Atlanta Motor Speedway, then you've done the job right. But we've got a lot of playoff drivers in the top 10. Only one, though, can have that golden ticket after this evening's race. So we'll set things up again, doubled up. Colin Forrester, the rookie driver, is your leader. Mario Miranda on the inside of the first row. Lawson Peel continues his progression. Was all the way back in 35th. He is up to the top 3. He's got Steven Stempian on his inside in row number 2. Zach Wilson is in the top 5 in the 51 car. It's been a good race for him. Then our first non-playoff driver comes in the form of Chris Shoemaker. P6, P7 to Warren Kyle Keith. Curtis Kelly back in 8th. Then 9th place to Wyatt Brackett, and rounding out the top 10 is Dakota Curtis. Shoemaker and Keith are having a great view in a sea of playoff drivers. And we'll see with under 25 laps to go how much this race changes from here on out. We'll tune up the guitar and get back to rocking here from Nashville Superspeedway. Forrester will have the discretion at the restart zone. Pace car is down. It'll be 24 laps remaining from Lebanon, Tennessee. Forrester picks up the green flag. We're back underway.
Forrester picked the outside there. Let Mario Miranda have the inside. I'm all for strategy, but I don't think I'd ever let Mario Miranda have the inside of me on any race, Kenneth.
but he had the jump, so he's clear of that 99 car. Can Miranda respond? They are side by side between Shoemaker and Keith for 6th on back, and meanwhile, side by side ahead of them, Stepien underneath Lawson Peel for the podium spot.
The intensity has picked up here. Oh, Lawson Peel, little scrub of the wall. All is good.
Stepien's going to force his way through in turn 1. Peel's going to have to hope that he does not get freight trained by those cars on the inside. And Derek, I'm very surprised that guys on the outside have not been as freight trained as you would expect. Nashville is mostly a bottom feeder track, but guys in that middle lane can hold on. And that's really caught me off guard. I'm sure it has for you as well.
In short runs like this, not so much. In short runs, you can kind of outbrake it on the outside and kind of keep with someone. If we would have a long run, if we'd have had a 40, 50, 60 lap long run tonight, that's when I think you would have seen the freight trains happen on the bottom lanes.
There's a look at Sean Kalis and a couple of others in a large pack of cars back in the field. So this was around Chuck Phelps, Ryan Kendall, Gary Sexton through the middle. Oh, and loose swing Kendall into the outside wall, and that was right next to Sexton. Very dangerous.
He got loose, and I think he scared Gary, I think, is what happened there. That'd have been Gary's third wreck tonight, I think.
And Gary does not want that to happen going into the next race at Atlanta. He is so far one of the drivers that's farther back in the playoff field through this running order, apart from the obvious guys like Ross Harlow, who's out of this race, Brandon Banks, who was trapped back in 27th. Battle with Dustin Reeves settled out quite quickly, and Sexton moves his way into 17th as the battle for the lead heats up. Contact between the two. Miranda shuffles through to the lead.
Down to the final laps, Kenneth, you got to be more aggressive, and that's that evil side. That's almost we want to call it the Wario side of Mario Miranda, coming out and being a little evil and making his way through the field.
It looks like he was way up higher on the track than the 31 anticipated, and this is what was going on out of turn 4. So you'll see the contact in turn 1. Everything seems to be fine from here. Miranda stays down there. Forrester remains on the high side drafting right here. That contact is made. Difference in lines forces Forrester up the track, and now he is dropped to second. He could have been jumped by Stepien and company, but that does not happen. And as we look live, the 12 car tries to get underneath Stepien, but to no success. That's for third.
And as you said earlier, you know, Mario Miranda outside of the track, a really awesome guy. I've had some interactions with him. You probably have too. Really awesome person, really awesome on Twitter. But man, when he puts that headset on and gets his hands on that steering wheel, it's just like a different person. It's like Bruce Banner and the Hulk almost, just two different people.
Or if you want to use it in more modern Gen Z terms, he's got that dog in him. That's something that people use a lot. But Miranda is staying put. He's staying put. It's 0.2 of a second, though. Forrester is not quite letting that 99 run away. So I'd say this is not over yet. 17 laps to go, and Forrester's really going to have to shift his mindset. It goes from, I've got the lead comfortably, to, oh boy, how do I get by this Twisted Tech Mustang?
And it's also a question of, oh boy, how do I deal with this dirty air? I mean, Forrester and others have had clean air up front tonight, and they know how good that feels. It's almost like you get stuck behind someone here, and it's hard to find your way around.
And we saw some drivers talk about that, and some of them visibly through the steering wheel and on track tonight, how tough it's been to make passes out on track. And that includes these guys back here. I figure it's probably been worse for them versus those guys that have been up front all night long. Garrett Brown, Aaron Adcock, they have had a race through the midfield of the century here from Nashville. Both of them with some pretty good runs tonight. Adcock with the biggest move at plus 17 after starting 29th. Brown has been somewhat flirting around this top 15 all race long. He holds on to 13th, but Gary Sexton might give him a run for his money, and so might Austin Reedy in the 96. So we've got something brewing around here that is further out from the race lead.
So I want to come back to something you said earlier about playoff drivers and non-playoff drivers and the attitudes and mentalities around it. There's a belief, I think, amongst the playoff drivers that these guys are supposed to move out of their way. Like they're supposed to give you the spot because you're a playoff driver. That's not the case. You need to earn it from them just like any other driver. So whether you're a Shoemaker, a Keith, you know, anyone back as Zach Wilson or an Aaron Adcock, who I guess is a playoff driver, but, you know, they don't have to move for you. You still need to earn that spot. But I think there's just sort of this mentality of an entitlement that a playoff driver gets, where they expect those guys to move at the end of a race.
Yeah, that's true. And that mindset ultimately, again, comes towards a clashing point where if you find an incident between a non-playoff driver and a playoff driver, I mean, you have those conflicts of interest where those guys not running for the championship want the win, but those playoff guys want to ensure that either they can make the next round depending on the race, or if we're down to Homestead in Miami, whether they can go out and win the championship. And that has been something that it's been around in this playoff system all too long, and that's been prominent with guys like Warren Kyle Keith, Chris Shoemaker right now. Speaking of battles, we have a huge one outside this top 10, a huge skirmish between the 11 and the 10. We saw Brackett and Dakota Curtis, two playoff guys, get rather physical for the spot. Now Ray Rogers, Gary Sexton, the 23 of Adcock, and the 96 of Reedy have said hello to all of them.
And if you're someone like Gary Sexton right in the middle of this, who's a playoff driver who started with no bonus points, you want this to clean up fast and safely. You want to maybe help push the 11 on through and get out of this scenario. This is a nightmare fuel for playoff drivers. They're 3 wide now. Oh my God, Gary said, nope, don't want to be here.
Well, that was Rogers that backed out in the middle.
Someone's going to have to back out there, or they were all going to end up out of the race, I think.
And so Sexton continues his trot to the front of the field. They're 3 wide again. 2 playoff drivers. Rogers on the bottom. They make contact, and they are going to save it again. So they escape drama late in the race. Dakota Curtis going over the radio. He's got 11th for now, but that was dangerous. 3 playoff drivers and Ray Rogers in that mess.
That was scary. That was, you know what? That's exactly what Gary Sexton was trying to avoid, Kenneth. That's why he made that move, because he can foreshadow those things coming just like that.
Well, they keep it collected side by side now for 5th. Warren Kyle Keith looking on the inside of Zach Wilson. And we do want to point out, Lawson Peel has taken control of P2, got around the 31 of Colin Forrester, and now has his sights set on your race leader, Mario Miranda. Derek, how many times have we seen the 99 and the 12 go at it for position, and most importantly, the race lead over the season? And how many times have we seen drama between these two? I couldn't count it with my fingers. It's been a lot.
I mean, think about it. This is literally 1-2 in the title last year. Like, this is how connected these gentlemen are right here. And Mario Miranda is trying to do everything he can to stay out front. The last thing Mario Miranda wants right now is for Barney the flagman to pick up that yellow flag. He does not want to give Lawson Peel a heads-up chance at this.
He does not. Speaking of Barney, there he is looking at all the drivers blurring by on the front straightaway, and you can see how this run has separated the field, and especially how the top 2 have broken away from 3rd on back. Forrester is starting to fall just a tad bit. Steven Stempian could take this spot away for 3rd. Warren Kyle Keith has also picked up the RPMs and the pace as of late. Peel not able to crunch in on this half a second gap. He's a little slower this time by. And Derek Watson, we have got 7 laps to go from Nashville Superspeedway.
This is quickly winding down unless you're Mario Miranda. If you're Mario Miranda, it feels like there's 70 laps to go. Time is moving not fast enough for him.
And here's Stempian on the inside of Forrester. This is going to be for 3rd. And they can get 2 drivers through on the inside. The 24 of Warren Kyle Keith will make that 3 wide. Stempian almost shut the door, going for the apron. Forrester's going to back out. He does not have enough pace. And Warren Kyle Keith looking for his 2nd straight Nashville Superspeedway podium.
I'll tell you what, Steven Stempian is nothing but a hound dog looking for those top spots right now at the end of this race.
And he will be the biggest mover all night long if he stays here, and he's going to move himself into 3rd. So what a drive by the Discount Tire 24 machine. Warren Kyle Keith started 27th tonight, and he is up inside the podium positions. This fight not quite over, though. The 31 still has a chance at Stempian, and Zach Wilson has been eyeing down these drivers for a couple of laps now. We approach 5 laps to go from Nashville Superspeedway. Gap for the lead still maintained at 0.6 of a second.
As I said, Mario Miranda is perfectly happy with this finishing under green, I believe. I'm looking at lap times, and they're nearly identical last time by. So Mario Miranda is perfectly happy running this thing to the end. There was a small gap for Lawson Peel, but nothing measurable that's going to get him up there.
Well, as long as Miranda stays even with Peel on the lap time, it's going to be fine. Miranda's going to hold on to his lead. It might close down a little, but it is not going to be enough to make this a proper challenge for the win. Side by side, further back in the field, we mentioned those playoff drivers at around the top 15. Well, Dakota Curtis is getting absolutely jumped by the SK Sim Racing number 46 of Joseph Mohar, Brad Fulham in a duel with Garrett Brown for turn 1.
But as you said, in some ways, the story of the night is Warren Kyle Keith now up on a podium, P3 in that 24 machine. What a great job here. 3 to go, Kenneth, coming down to the finish line here soon.
Well, it might not be over for third. The 24 of Keith has to stay mistake-free, but that's a big one out of turn 4. We'll get 2 laps to go from Lebanon, Tennessee. Stepien gets his way on the bottom, but the 24 is not going to go away without a fight. He'll try and pinch him down in 1 and 2. Stepien gets to the throttle first. He's got third once again, so Stepien puts his foot in it, and it pays off as Miranda comes in at 3 and 4, looking for the white flag.
What an amazing run by Mario Miranda all night. Got around the force when he needed to, and there it is. There's the white flag, Kenneth.
White flag in this Nashville 200. Lawson Peel won the race last week at the Daytona International Speedway. It was his 3rd win of the year, but most importantly, tied him for most all-time Sunoco Cup Series wins at 17. The driver who he tied with is the man you're looking at right now, and Miranda will come through 3 and 4 in his first race back since a power outage due to severe weather. Miranda bounces back and is on top again. Win number 3 of the season for Miranda. He's on to the next round.
Amazing race all night. Amazing run by Mario Miranda. Wow. The man never misses a beat, Kenneth.
And there's Lawson Peel sending his congratulations. Stepien as well. And that makes that 8 out of the top 10 cars to finish this race, all playoff competitors. But the spotlight on the man who gets to the line first. There's Gary Sexton, his 0G teammate. But Mario Miranda sends it to the grass and burns it down with his Twisted Tech Ford Mustang, providing you tonight's Sunoco winning moment. More high-performance racing engines rely on Sunoco race fuels than all others combined. And for over 50 years, Sunoco has been fueling the top race car drivers around the world with high-quality performance fuels they can trust to power them to the checkered flag. Sunoco, fueling victories from track to tank. This is Miranda's 18th career Sunoco Cup Series win, his 3rd one of the season, tying Peel for the most in 2023. And it's his first win, Derek, since Bristol Motor Speedway on the dirt, April 9th. It's been a couple of months since driver number 99 has visited the winner's circle. We'll take a short break and come back with post-race coverage here from Lebanon, Tennessee. It's not quite over here on Podium Esports. More on the other side. Miranda, the winner tonight from Nashville Superspeedway.
What's up, Doug? What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Fuller.
Yeah,
Needed F-150 for Smith build.
got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha.
Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
got into you? At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
150 laps complete here from the Nashville Superspeedway. You're looking at the aftermath of tonight's Nashville 200, where Mario Miranda, the 99 car, gets to victory lane for the third time this season, and most importantly, the win that gets him into the next round of the playoffs. And Mario, we talked before we dropped the green flag, and you said you just wanted to bounce back after missing last week's action at Daytona. This probably is the best way to bounce back. You get a race win, you're on to the next round. How does this feel?
Oh, this is definitely the best way. I wish I had my camera on tonight because I was screaming, throwing my fist in the air. I'm super glad I had this. I was telling my teammates that the last month of racing has been pretty hard with mechanical issues in real life and, catching on fire to just bad races in the sim world. I just, was really needed this win, and it's just such a confidence booster for, every bit of racing that I do. And I'm really glad I was able to bring it home tonight.
And you said it there, a lot of ups and downs over the last couple of weeks. It's your first win in this series since April. So it's been a couple of months, but obviously this win probably the most important. And I want to talk about the way you got there. You had the race lead in stage number 2. You got the playoff points for that. But then came you, Colin Forrester, going for the lead. How were you able to do it? And obviously, how were you able to hold on to the lead as Lawson Peel tried to catch up to you?
Yeah, Colin was, running a really good race. He was actually really good in 1 and 2, and I knew my moment would probably be in 3 and 4 and off the exit of 4 down the front straightaway. And, we got side by side for about a lap, and I was side by side with him entering 1, and I turned in just a little bit later than he did, and like the old iRacing way, our doors get stuck, and he got the bad end of the straw, and I was able to get in front of him. And I hate making contact for the lead like that, but I got the lead, and I think my car showed that it was a little bit faster on the long run there, and then from there with the clean air, I was able to save my tires, and I did get a little bit worried about Lawson Peel at the end there. He got past Colin and Stimpy so easily. I thought he almost had new tires the way he passed them, so I was getting a little worried, but kept my head in front. I was checking the interval every 5 laps or so. I'm not checking every lap to get myself worried, and saw it slowly increasing. And those last 5 laps were a nice little cruise to the end.
Stayed up front and took care of business. Derek Watson is asking me to ask this to you, so I'm just going to be the messenger in all this. We're at Nashville Superspeedway, Music City. There's obviously a music tie in all this. With this win, are you going to be celebrating to any type of country song? Do you have a favorite, or are you not really the country type of guy?
I'm from Oklahoma. You gotta be the country guy here, even if you don't like country. But my sister put me on to when I was a little younger to Culture Wall, so I'll probably be listening to him tonight. And speaking of sisters, shout out to my oldest. It's her birthday. We're celebrating her birthday today, so happy birthday to her.
Oh, well, happy birthday from us as well at Podium Esports. Mario, big win to get you into the next round. And let's talk about it now. You're onwards to the next step of the playoffs to go for a title this year. What's your approach like now, and how much does it change after tonight's win?
This win is just such a confidence boost, like I said, and I think my approach is to race this race like I did. Be patient in some parts, be aggressive in other parts. Younger me would just be aggressive in all parts of the race. You really got to pick and choose when to push, when to settle back, when to help your teammates, when to not help your teammates in some cases. So from here on out, I just got to play the smart game. And with when we come back to Atlanta in a couple of weeks, got to help the teammates there. It's a super speedway. So heading into Atlanta, got to help my teammates, Stimpy, Gary, and Dakota, try to get them into the next round.
Got the teammates in mind, but you're onwards to the next round. Mario, of course, on behalf of all of us at Podium Esports, congratulations on tonight's win from Nashville Superspeedway, and we'll see you in the next round of the playoffs. But from then, have a nice 1-week break. We'll see you back in action at Atlanta Motor Speedway 2 weeks from now. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That's Mario Miranda rocking off into the nightfall here from Nashville as he wins tonight's Nashville 200 in stellar fashion. And Derek Watson, you're caught up with a man who comes home in second. That is the 12 car, Lawson Peel.
Lawson, what a What a roller coaster of a ride tonight. Walk us through the emotions as you have your incident and you get all the way in the back of the field. What was it like getting all the way back through the field again?
Yeah, it wasn't very easy. Wasn't able to pass all those cars very easily or very quickly. Got to like P14 there at the beginning of the third stage, and from there on, I got a couple of those positions via like a wreck or two, but had to pass most of them. So it was a battle to charge back up through there, and fortunate to miss those wrecks. A couple of those wrecks were like right there. I had to go through the grass to miss one of them, so I was lucky to kind of get through there, and real happy to come back and recover with a P2 there.
At that moment when you had your incident, you spun to the back of the field, no caution. Did second place
Yeah.
even feel like feasible?
I mean, I think my goal was maybe to get like a top 5. I would have been happy with a top 10, but judging by the first stage, I know I didn't think I would get to P2. I didn't feel like I was one of the best cars. I felt like a few of those guys were better than me. So yeah, I know a couple of those fast guys like Reedy got taken out in that wreck in turn 4. My teammate Brandon got KO'd from that, so that was unfortunate. But yeah, so I was able to jump a couple of those guys that way. But yeah, I think P2 was above my expectations there. I'm happy with that.
And once you get around Forrester with about a little less than 10 to go, did you think you had anything for Mario, or were you pretty sure that was you were where you were?
I don't know if I really knew at that point. I was thinking probably not. I mean, I had to use a little bit of my tire up to get to second, so just didn't really have anything after that to go after him. And it's such a single groove racetrack, and we talk about the dirty air all the time. So just didn't have what I needed there to close in that last 5 or 6 tenths. Was just kind of stuck right there, and I think I knew with probably about 10 to go that it wasn't going to happen unless I got a yellow. So he was running smooth and hitting his line there and doing a good job. So didn't really have anything.
Fair enough. Well, obviously we're in Nashville tonight. There's a huge country music tie-in. Do you have a favorite country song?
You know, I don't know if I have a favorite, but man, I'm a fan of several of the big name artists, Dirk Bentley, Jason Aldean, several of them. So I certainly do my fair share listening to country music and like to come to Nashville. And yeah, it's always, I think it was a good vibe there today in the Cup race. Pretty cool that they're going to Nashville now.
Agree. All right. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks, July 9th at Atlanta. Before then, have a happy and safe 4th of July, and we'll see you then.
Appreciate it. See you guys.
All right. Kenneth, he is the driver of the 12 car. That's Lawson Peel.
So Lawson Peel ends up in second behind your race winner. Let's talk to the man who comes home in third, and that is also a driver for 0G, the 81 of Steven Stempien. Steven, you had a really fast car tonight. A long run came down to it. You were fighting for position. It felt like the entire time. What was your perspective through all that in that run to the end?
Yeah, man, that was one of the hottest third place finishes I feel like I've had. I appreciate that though. I didn't feel like I had speed. Wasn't comfortable tonight. I don't hear me say that a lot, but I just wasn't comfortable at this track for whatever reason.
I know that you definitely love these abrasive tracks, and Nashville is one of them, and you led a bunch of laps last year, the last time we were here in the Sunoco Cup Series. But what was it like to approach this race at a much shorter distance? We had 300 laps last time we were here, 150, cutting it directly in half. Did that change the way you saw this race and therefore how you handled it behind the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're in the playoffs. The last season when we came here, we weren't in the playoffs. It was, another regular season race. It's just, you try to be conservative and stay up front as much as you can and, get some good playoff points. I don't want to get involved in something stupid or, do something dumb to ruin my playoff spots, my points. And, it's just, you couldn't find dirt. Once you got behind dirty air, you couldn't do anything. And I was fighting that all night. I couldn't find clean air. And, the only time I really found clean air was when me and Mario were 1 and 2 before that caution came out late in the race. And, we were doing well because we were both kind of, he was giving me some clean air and we were able to stay up front. And then that caution happened and then just jumbled everything again. But, I mean, I can't complain. A P3, disappointed P3, but kind of want to redeem myself after last season. But I'll take it, man. I'm happy still.
But regardless, top 3 finish, decent points going into the next race at Atlanta Motor Speedway and to get through these rounds in the playoffs. So what's your thoughts going into Atlanta and how you're going to try to advance into the next round?
That's just another track, kind of same statements that I made earlier in this interview. It's just, I got involved in a bad wreck at the start of the season here at Atlanta, and I was running in the top 5, and I think I finished 30th. So it's just, it's a wild card, just like Daytona or Talladega. Just gotta be smart, make smart moves. Don't put anybody in a bad position. I really don't do that anyway, but just trying to, get lucky, a little bit of luck going into Atlanta. I just make it to the next round. That's the goal. And just stay out of trouble this week. We got some good teammates. Mario's got a win, so I know he's going to be helping me. He's a pretty good pusher. So hopefully we'll have some draft support next week. Well, not next week, but in 2 weeks.
Looking for a stroke of luck at Atlanta Motor Speedway. But let's talk about the stroke of the guitar. It's the Music City Nashville Superspeedway. You had the Elvis colors on tonight. We did not ignore that. Love the paint scheme. Do you listen to Elvis at all? Or do you have a favorite country song, favorite artist?
I just that's from my pops. My pops growing up with my dad, huge Elvis. His mom, my grandmother, huge Elvis fans. Obviously, I listen to them. I'm an Elvis fan. I've listened to a bunch of Elvis growing up because of him. And anytime I come here, I usually try to run an Elvis scheme for him because I know he loves it. And, you don't see the scheme that much. This is a Rusty Wallace 2002 scheme that he ran back in Vegas back then. And I got my dad that diecast years ago, so figured I'd give it a try, and it came out pretty good. I was pretty happy with it, man. I was pretty proud of myself on that one.
It looked beautiful on track. That's all I'm going to say. And a great third place finish here as we take a week off for July 4th and head over to Atlanta the following week on July 9th. Steven, on behalf of our entire crew at Podium Esports, congratulations on the third place finish. Wishing you a very happy and safe 4th of July week. It's on a Tuesday this year. And then we'll see you at Atlanta in a couple of weeks' time.
Heck yeah, man. Looking forward to the time off. My son's birthday, he's turning 2 on the 3rd, so looking forward to that and have a week off and prepare for Atlanta. We'll see you guys. You guys have a good 4th.
All right, so that's Steven Sempian closing out the top 3 in his 0G Ford Mustang. So Derek, we'll try and recap ourselves before we head off and go for Atlanta in a couple of weeks' time. I'm just going to say we've been talking about it throughout the breaks in our show. You have certainly brought me to school, up to date on country music. I need to do a lot of homework still before I end this season or anything. I still have to do a lot of work to do. But nonetheless, Mario Miranda, what a great win, clean one at the end, and a great start to the playoffs.
I'll tell you what, speaking of going to school, at the very end of the race, Mario took him to school. That's what happened. He got around Forrester and never looked back and held the master class on how to win a race. That's who went to school tonight.
Yeah, Miranda really did show out this evening. And like you said, Derek, it felt like he never skipped a beat. He missed 1 week, and it felt like he didn't miss it at all. He just turned the page and kept going. Miranda onwards to the next round. We do take a break for next weekend, obviously, for July 4th on Tuesday, but we will return the following week, July 9th, where we head over to the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the Superspeedway configuration, as we try to decide the drivers that will advance to the next round of the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. Here's a look one last time at your schedule before we wrap things up. We cross over Nashville Superspeedway. Atlanta is next in Hampton, Georgia. We'll see what we can do to get through from there. We'll take a final look at our unofficial results from Lebanon, Tennessee before we wrap things up tonight. It is Mario Miranda who takes home the win this evening. Right behind him, the number 12 of Lawson Peel. Third place ends up as Steven Stempian. Warren Kyle Keith is a non-playoff driver. What a run for him. Colin Forrester inside the top 5. Zach Wilson in P6. 7th to Gary Sexton. 8th to Chris Shoemaker. 9th to Curtis Kelly. And the 96 of Austin Reedy rebounds Derek Watson for a top 10.
That's right. Then you got Brackett and the Scooby-Doo, the Mystery Machine right there in 11th. You got Rogers in 12th. Aaron Adcock in 13th. Mayhar in 14th. Fulham, pardon me. That's the car who started last with that EOL, up to 15th place, by the way. Dakota Curtis, league owner, in 16th. You got Brown, Reeves, Feltz, and Easley round out your top 20.
So then look for 21st on back. Sean Kalis in the 43. Then 22nd to Travis Stevens. Brandon Banks, 23rd. 24th to Logan Sturgeon. Bill Schoonover rounds out the top 25. Then Justin Miller, rookie driver, 26th. 27th is Chris Progard. 28th to Ryan Kendall. Alex Muscarella rounds out the top 29. He's the last driver on the lead lap. Justin Urban, 30th. 31st to Ross Harlow. Then Austin Shoemaker in 32nd. Richard Swabley in 33rd. Dakota Wilson, 34th. Judd Danielson, 35th, and James Kunkel rounds out your 36-car field. From Nashville Superspeedway, a rough run for Ross Harlow. We'll see if he can pick things up in a couple of weeks' time from Atlanta Motor Speedway. So a big thank you to Dakota Curtis and all the admins of the Sunoco Cup Series, and for Podium Esports and all those involved, for Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore, and for our broadcast this evening and the crew behind it, our producer Bradley Cooper, camera creator Dougie Beard, and for my colleague in the booth, Derek Watson, my name is Kenneth Wennell, saying thank you so much for watching our broadcast of the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs from Nashville. We'll see you in a couple of weeks from Atlanta, but until then, have a happy and safe July 4th weekend.
What's up, Doug? What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Fuller.
Yeah.
Need an F-150 for Smith build.
Got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha.
Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide. Even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.